did that night stuff.
They have people. It's getting him in the right direction.
Other than getting everything installed for the mass work. So from our perspective, yeah, we'd love to have it in, but if mass work is an essential, we don't need to.
Any one long? You would think they would know. Maybe they're looking for parking over there. We took all the trucks.
And then I think it was late fall. But that has nothing to do with
I think he's on the,
they wanted to
Tim, do you have him on speed dial?
pretty much.
the email that shows that.
Do we have that remote participation?
No, I don't think they have. They told me. I have an email from Chapel saying that
Is that what you're taking, Alan?
My vacation now.
there's no time frame. If it's
There you go.
Oh, Steve, yeah,
So we have a quorum now, and we can begin. If you all stand, pledge of allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for all coming. I've never had a turnout like this before the time, so I stand before you in awe. I think there's a difference here between your former and your current. And I so appreciate everyone turning out. So if there's any comments right now, this is a session right now if there's anyone who wants to discuss their budgets, they may not have enough head count or like to have more head count and more computers, whatever the topic may be, we're here to listen. Anyone from the public, absolutely, we have the public here.
One public.
Jim, I actually saw the DPW, my wife saw the DPW in action today in front of my house. I don't know if it's a coincidence or not. Well, we had 2 trees taken down, so we do appreciate that, so.
On town property.
On town property. We tried to convince them to go inward a little bit, but they wouldn't. So appreciate that quite a bit. So, first of all, my overall observation, again, a good budget for the year. Good teamwork more than anything else. You all came together. I think the priorities were well established, and everyone did what they had to do. So I'm very pleased by the current year budget. I've got nothing in our letter to the town. It's just blah, 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 blah. It's a repeat of what's in the budget book. But, you know, my only concerns have nothing to do with the current year. It really is the outlying years, and I think we all agree to that. You know, you get the schools, you got the OPEB, you got retirement and pension. So all those things are costs coming in that are outweighing the revenue streams that we see right now in the future. But other than that, for 2020, it looks great. My opinion. Your opinion? Anyone? Stan?
Well, Stan Lifford, 43 Stonecleave Road.
I know that by heart.
Knowing who's sitting behind me is a little intimidating, I have to say, because I would be very careful about any reflections I might make about any of the current management, departments, anything else as far as that goes. Really what I have is some questions more than any statements about this budget, because I'm like you, Tim. I looked at the budget and everything, of course, looks good to me, and I'm, again, happy and I think as proud as anyone else that we again have a consensus budget to take to town meeting. So I think that speaks well about the budget itself, the process that got us to the budget and everything else. The thing that seemed a little odd to me when I was driving to the meeting is having this meeting, a so-called public hearing about the budget at this point in the process. Because at this point, this is pretty much cast in concrete. You know, if someone got up here, and I don't know who would or why they would, but made some statement like, I think we ought to move money from X to what? We're just not doing that. I mean, we're way beyond that process. Is this meeting at the right point in the process? Is this public hearing where it ought to be in the process? I'm just wondering, because there's not much you can do with this. You know, it may be driven by charter or bylaw, I'm not sure, but.
So we have actually discussed a public hearing prior to even the budget process starting, and maybe future years that might happen. It may express citizens' concerns. We had one person, I think in our last June meeting, who actually came forth and said, can you try to do as like a sensitivity analysis and what else if you shifted cost around? But that's as close as we got to a pre-budget public hearing. I also know too, when things have gone so well the last several years in the budget process, people get more quiet and they're not excited, so there wasn't anything really exciting to speak of. You're right, if we had something that was sharp, hard, controversial, I think we'd have to go to a different place maybe.
Yeah, no,
So-
I think you're right. And I think we have been the beneficiaries of a number of different positive things, you know, good management, a very good economic situation, you know, that has helped us out a lot in the last few years. So, you know, the economy's improved a lot. You know, our revenues have improved over time. So that's helped. But nonetheless, it still seems like this is not a very helpful meeting for all of us, for you in particular, because it doesn't arrive at a point where you can really do anything with the information. I mean, the best you could do is.
Dan, I would argue, though, that we have a public comment before we begin every meeting and at the end as well. So if someone is interested in the topic that we're discussing, specifically that budget, then they have every right and opportunity to come
Absolutely.
discuss it.
Absolutely. But in the sense that a public hearing is supposed to be the time at which the public shows up and comments on something or other, you know, just seems like maybe its placement in the sort of the chronology might be worth a review. That's all I would say.
I agree with you. There's no reason why, as part of our maybe initial meetings, we actually stand that up broader, bigger, and say, now's your time.
Yeah,
And here are some of the
give
key
us your
topics.
input now, right?
Yeah, that-
Well, or perhaps it's really about broadcasting when certain topics are being discussed. Because technically, it's, I know it's not a public hearing every meeting, but there's a opportunity for the public to speak, and it's televised, and we're following open meeting rules. So I totally hear you.
Yeah, no, I just, it's not a bad thing, it's just, could it be a more beneficial thing, a more beneficial input? And I really think, this, on the one hand, I'm often embarrassed by this exact situation where I'm the audience, right, where I'm the public. To me, that I could be embarrassed by that, I guess, because somehow it doesn't speak well about our community and its interest in what's going on in it. On the other hand, maybe it really speaks well to all the people behind me who
Absolutely.
are doing such an outstanding job that nobody's concerned about how it's going.
I
So
think
they
there's-
don't feel the need to come in here and natter us.
There's comfort in the management behind you. I think there's comfort in the finance committee. There's comfort in the board of selectmen. So I think these are all positive signs of a good town health, good healthy town.
Yeah.
And you know the heydays back when this public hearing may be throwing nameplates at one another maybe.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
luckily we're not there.
Well, and we do know that, given the right circumstances, as Ms. Casey can attest, 50 or 100 people will show up for a meeting and give you their input if there's something they're interested in. So it's not like they won't do that,
Sure.
given the right circumstance. But I guess this really means that things are going well and people feel comfortable with what we're all about. Let me share some of your going forward concerns, but in a different way. I'm concerned about process, not about the money, right? I think it's been a miraculous thing to me that we've been able to come up with such an orderly budget process that it's stood us in good stead now for 7 or 8 years. We've done extremely well. I hope somehow we're able to institutionalize or proceduralize or memorialize the process that we've been using for the last few years to keep doing it. I think it's been a really important addition to what's gone on. And we were just talking about this recently, about how prior to our last town manager, we used to play what I affectionately call budget poker. So we'd spend weeks and weeks playing budget poker to try to, end up with the best hand you possibly could. And it was time consuming, it was innovating, it was awful. It was just an awful process. And when that all changed to a new process, a completely orderly and rational process, it was amazing. It was such a breath of fresh air. It was just phenomenal. And, I hope all the other, managers, department managers and everyone else feels sort of the same way about that. But certainly having sat on the school committee at the time when that all changed, it was just dramatic. I mean, we used to meet weekly, January and February, to try to, improve our budget poker hand, all the time. And when things changed, we could go back to bi-monthly meetings. We didn't need the extra meetings. They just weren't even necessary. So that's been an amazing process. I hope we don't lose that. That's a really critical thing that I think has been such a dramatic change to how we're able to get to consensus budgets and how we get, all the people actually doing the work to, seems like they're all agreeing that this is a good process too. So that's something I hope we don't lose. And you all see how that works because, you sit on the revenue and fixed cost and where that all gets started. But it's somehow how we get to that point of kicking that budget cycle off with some directives and how that all works. So I think that's a critical element that we've been given that I hope we don't lose going forward.
Although it's probably inappropriate for me to be making comments, I can't help myself. It's a public hearing. But I agree with you, Stan. It isn't about the things on the horizon. It is about the process of getting there. And I cannot at this point, because it's still a working committee on the OPEB as an example. Many of us have gotten together and have created a process and worked things out and are moving forward. Because it's a $110 million liability, and at any time, point in time and year, will we have enough to cover even the current funding for that OPEB responsibility? And from what my involvement in that committee has been, is, yeah, we're doing good.
Right.
And it's part of the process. We're not tackling the 110 million overnight, but we're
Right.
got a process in place.
Well, the other thing I would add to that is there's a fair number of moving parts, as Ms. Savage is well aware, about what it took to get us to a AAA bond rating and what it will take to keep us there. I mean, that's something that we're going to have to also keep our eye on, as I know we will. But, you know, that's another one of those, you know, we made some changes to get us here. And we don't want to go backwards. We don't want to, there should be no retrograde
We
in
made
that.
substantial changes, Dan.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of things that are of interest to me. And I see you all, the Finance Committee, actually being able to help us by looking at those, the process and procedure that, you know, we may need or want or could use to keep particularly the financial part of our town in such wonderful shape as it's now in and continues to be. So anyway, thank you for all the good work you all are doing too. We appreciate it. So
You're welcome. Would any other member of the town like to present or have a talk? Nope. Do I have a motion then? We have a public hearing.
Move we adjourn the public hearing.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
If you want to stay around for the rest of the discussion on warrants and capital improvement budget and everything else, you're more than welcome to stay. But in the meantime, I still thank you all for coming. You two are leaders, so thank you.
Thanks.
Linda's need support.
I know. That's really nice. Yeah.
You have to feel proud. You gotta be proud, okay. With that, I now open up the regular Finance Committee meeting on this day, April 3rd. First presentation is on the community preservation projects, and John is here to guide us through what the plan is that was being put forth before the town meeting. John? Yeah, guys? I think you all have some material that was presented, so.
Have some copies, so.
Oh, I think I had Angela make some copies for some,
Okay,
so,
so you
thank
all
you.
have copies.
We should.
I got them.
Yeah, I do.
As always, thank you for having us here. I wanted to first introduce Donovan O'Connell, who's a member of the committee, and hopefully if everything works out well, he will assume the thankless task of being our chair.
You've been doing a yeoman's job, so.
So we'll see after tonight.
Take it easy on me.
Yeah. So I do have, I've provided you 2 documents, and I thought that what probably makes sense is to go through the narrative, which has the list of the projects on the front, and then pages of text following that. I think that'd be the easiest way to follow through. This was probably a fairly regular year for CPA. It was not, we didn't get an extraordinary number of projects, and we didn't get a mega project like the fields like we did last year. What I would say was that the quality of everything that we received was very good, well thought out. We did, I will mention, there was one project we did not fund for a special reason, but in all, I think everything that we saw was well put together, well prepared, and so forth. And to put the money into context, because last year we did support a very large project, which fortunately our approach of leaving money available helped us a lot, so we didn't have to borrow to fund the field project. But there is ample money in the fund to cover everything that's in our budget this year. Even if you would assume that we had spent all the money in fiscal 19 for the Fields project, we'd still have money available. But the reality of the situation is that that will probably get spent mostly in fiscal 20 and in fiscal 21 for the Fields. And by the way, at the planning board meeting last night, we did approve the special permit for the Fields project. If somebody decides to appeal it, that may slow things down, but if it doesn't, the work will start probably within a month, so.
Nice job.
So that's that. And then if you did want to actually see the money numbers, to back up to what's at the top here, you can look at the 2 pages here where basically when we start off, before we start off deciding on our projects, we look at how much money is in the fund, and then how much money will come into the fund before the end of the fiscal year. And then from that, we subtract out whatever commitments we have. And Lynn gives us a schedule every month that shows the remaining balance in every project, so we know exactly where we are. And so you can see going into, even if we took all the money for the Fields project and applied it against, in fiscal 19, we still had a balance left of 500,000, and we add to that the money we expect to bring in this year. It's 2.7 million, and our projects are less than that. And on the next page, if you take a slightly different view of the timing of the spending, which is the more likely one, you can see there's a lot more money available for this year and in the future years. So that's just sort of context to make sure we don't spend money we don't have. So.
I like the presentation, thank you.
Yeah. So then getting into the individual.
Can we ask?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I mean, one thing, so the revenue last year was,
It was about 3% less than that. This is just the revenue remaining for the rest of the year. So we had three quarters left.
Okay.
Most of it's already in the fund balance already, but,
okay, yep.
yeah. So
commitments, is that the field?
it's the Fields, and there's a bunch of other any project that has, it's predominantly the field, because the field's more than 6 million of
Do
it.
you have lists of outstanding projects? I'm just,
Yeah, we do. Lynn gives it to us every
have
month, so you could, if you wanted to
okay.
see the detail, you could see that we could give you the detail.
is that online? I'm curious. I've never looked for it.
I don't post it online, but I
Okay,
mean,
but I could come in and get it.
Yep.
Okay,
I can
great.
email it to you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So moving into the individual projects, and I think you'll see a number of the projects are similar to ones we funded in the past. The first one, Affordable Housing Trust, this is every year we've given 100,000 to it. It's the obvious benefit is that if the Affordable Housing Trust wants to do something between town meetings, having money in the pot enables them to do that. They have to come back to us with the recommendations, with their plans in any case. I think their track record has been very good. I think that one of the things that, in addition to just providing affordable housing as affordable housing, it actually plays a subtle role in firming up neighborhoods, because they're going to take a property and bring it back into a good state in a couple of cases where it hasn't been. So I think that's an added benefit, and it's one I think is really important. But that one is worked out very well, and the performance has been very good, so.
Do you know what the trust balance is?
And it's the same thing.
Do you know-
I wish Lori was still
Roughly
here.
what the balance of the trust is?
I think, I'm going to assume there's probably 700,000 to $1 million in it. I don't know, I'm guessing, but I do know at one time, people don't know the history of this, but when the Edgewood project was built, we got them to contribute a certain amount per unit, and we ended up with like 700,000 or 800,000 just from Edgewood. Most of the money that comes into the Affordable Housing Trust, I think, there's a certain amount of money that the town gets regularly is from the state for that. But the rest of it is typically the money we give them and any special one-time thing. They also, I think, get the buybacks if there's any of the 40B units in a building that doesn't get sold for affordable purposes. They have to buy that back, and they put it back into their pot, so. But we can get the number for that, and I think Laurie has that, so.
So that pool sits there, and if they find if they designate a property.
A
if I recall,
property, yeah.
They can say, they can come
And,
back to you and say, okay, we have this in the trust, we want to act on this property.
Yeah.
Bring it back up and make it affordable.
Yeah, and usually they partner with somebody, Bread and Roses is the
Right,
typical
right,
partner
right.
that they have partnered with in the past, and,
Great.
so. The next project is the Sear Boardwalk, called Sear because it's at the Sear Recycling Center. It's actually to extend trails through that property, but it's also a connection to the Bay Circuit Trail, which is actually pretty exciting because then that gets you into the entire ultimate network that goes around the entire city, for close to 100 miles. So it's something that they've wanted to do for a long time because it extends the trail capability in that section of town. I know as part of the master plan, that was one of the things that was a huge deal, is extend the trail network and so forth, and this does that. And the good thing about it is that you got a lot of volunteers that are going to do a lot of the work, so the cost is lower than it would be if you had to have the town do everything, So any questions on that? I'm moving through. Next item is the funding of the playgrounds, and I think this is another recurring one you've seen. We are doing typically 2 at a time now to finish it off. I think we'll only have 1 more year to go after this. But I think it's exciting because it's a chance to have high-quality playgrounds throughout the town, and there's equity through the town. So I think the approach that was taken really has worked out pretty well. And if, if you look at what was done at Drummond looks great, and,
And there are so many more people using it. I
Yeah.
live 2 doors up. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how crowded it is when,
Yeah.
when they first opened it, and the first nice day we had, it was packed.
Yeah.
So how do you plan to spend this at Grogan's? Because, it's destroyed.
Well, that's a very good question. As a comment there is that one of the things that we've said is that we have to wait till things get sorted out as part of the conclusion of the gas
Because
thing.
I don't see that this money getting used anytime soon.
No, it may take 6 to 9 months to a year.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to do something dumb. We should have the gas company pay
Yeah.
for everything possible
Yeah.
there.
I mean, it's very sad. That
Yeah.
field right now is destroyed.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we can do is, we've said this from the very beginning, right? I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that we can, we'll go to the town and put a condition here is that all the repairs have to be completed
Yeah.
prior to spending the
Right.
money.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so that just gets earmarked for whenever Columbia
They're
Gas
ready,
is finished,
Exactly.
hopefully sooner than later. Yeah,
We can all
okay,
cross our fingers.
yeah. Used to be a nice field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The next project, Ridgewood Cemetery, and I think you're familiar with the Ridgewood program. This is the next, and I think it's the penultimate phase of their master plan. And it's really to restore some sections of the external perimeter of the property back to their original shape. And it's also to focus on the Marble Ridge prime. And if you think about it, we've worked our way through from the Salem Street side of the property now through to the Marble Ridge side. And I think that, anybody that's been there for the Memorial Day events knows just what a beautiful job they've done. It's really pretty spectacular. It is a property that's now on the National Registry, which is quite a coup, so,
One of my favorite places to walk into,
yeah.
because there's no cars. It's like with a little kid, I know that sounds weird, but with a little kid and not being in the mud or in a trail, it's like the nicest place to, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So then the next project, and this is a project that I'm incredibly excited about, is that the town partner with Essex County Greenbelt to purchase this property, 9 acres in the watershed that directly abuts Smolik Farm and Part of Town Farm. It's really, it's on Dale Street if you're traveling away from, past Town Farm towards Smolik's on the left. There's a wood lot there, and in the back of it, you see some wetlands in the back. That's where the Heron Rookery is. But the upland, there's like 3 or 4 acres of upland, and a surprisingly amount of upland. And the Glenny family is selling it to the town. The value of it's close to twice what we're actually going to pay for it, so it's actually kind of almost a charitable donation on the part of the family. We're going to pay $200,000, privately fundraising $50,000, and the total cost will be $250,000 to purchase it from the family. And then the Greenbelt will take care of all the transaction costs, pay all the lawyers' fees, that sort of thing, and they'll put the parking lot in, which is a pretty good deal for the town, because we're not too good at putting parking lots in, right?
There's been much discussion on our committee about that.
Yeah.
The one thing I'd add about this too is I think this keeps, and correct me if I'm wrong, John, but it keeps the trails that are contiguous on town property as well. I think, it went off onto the Glenny family's plot. And this will bring all those trails back on town property and be contiguous, so which is good.
Yeah. So, the next project and the largest project that we're funding is for really kitchens and bath upgrades for the family housing project. We have worked with the Housing Authority. Probably you've seen, steady stream of Housing Authority projects over the last 5 years, and I think they've generally been very successful and have had a very substantial improvement in the quality of life of the people living there. What we had asked the Housing Authority to do last year was to do a study, comprehensive study of all their needs, because we wanted to make sure that what we were funding was the most important one. Their project report is not 100% complete, but it was like 90% complete, and they said clearly that this was far and away the most important project they had. And that's why we chose to fund it, even though it was a fairly substantial amount of money. We are going to have them in, prior to releasing any of the money, to see the final report and to go over to make sure this still stayed at the top of the queue, because we don't want to have any changes or shifts in it, and we want them to do the work promptly. Devin, I don't know if you have any more to add.
No, I think that's absolutely right. I think it was important to us as a committee that this remain at the top of their needs assessment, because as John alluded to, it's not complete yet. So we wanted the chance that if something came back and this wasn't as important as they claim it to be, then we want the opportunity to talk about that before we would give them any money. Well, it would be put out to bid.
Yeah, they have a very regulated process for, I think that they bring in DHCD and they have to get, engineers to approve things. I mean, when we pay a bill for them, it's like about a 12-page package.
So who does an RFP, I would imagine?
That's exactly what they do.
Who puts that together?
The Housing Authority with
Does
the
it?
help of the people at the state.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds complicated.
It is.
It
Yeah.
is.
And Kathy, the executive director, gets a lot of help from the state to make sure that it's done within their regulations and guidelines.
So they had to go unit by unit and say, what are the needs in each particular unit? I mean,
well, property, I mean, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say, we have 5 or 6 properties, but this is,
Okay.
what they've said is
I see, all right.
the kitchens and baths are in deplorable condition. I
Yeah.
don't think there's any
No, I
question
think
that
this
that's,
is just
yeah.
tremendously worthy. I'm just curious as to how it works, the machinations involved, but no, it's
Yeah.
so worthy.
I mean, I think one of the problems is that consistently the amount of state funding is insufficient.
Yeah,
Whereas, believe it or not, the federal funding tends to be a little bit richer, like, that's why we've not made any proposals for McKeskey Meadows, because that's a federally funded project, and they tend to get enough money to cover,
What they need.
you know, the improvements and so
And
forth.
quick, more quickly as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Meadows, the one you were just speaking about?
Oh, McKeskey Meadows?
Yeah, I'm
It's,
trying to place
it's off of Waverly Road.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think if you see it, you'll see it, it's the biggest and the nicest one. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
yeah. And the last project is a restoration of another piece of historical fire equipment. It's quite a story, right, about how they found it, and they went up to Maine, and, you know, the story was, I guess they were doing some work on it up in Maine, and they looked on the thing, and it said Town of North Andover, so
Right.
the fire chief up there actually called North Andover and says, I got some of your stuff. And so they went up and they looked at it. And I think the one thing that I think is really pretty cool about all this is they're going to try to take every piece of equipment that's refurbished, and in addition to using it like on 4th of July and stuff, they're going to try to display it publicly. Like one of the pieces they want to put right in Town Hall into the lobby. I think they have to take it apart in order to do it.
To get it through the doors, right. And I think with this piece too, they want to put it in the Santa parade at at Thanksgiving time, let it lead the thing.
Yeah.
It's a pretty impressive piece, and it's gonna be very, very cool when they're done.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a very cool part of our town's history.
Yeah.
I know the chief is very excited that he got his hands on it, in a very lucky fashion.
Yeah, so,
Where will it be stored otherwise?
yeah.
Where will it be stored otherwise?
I forget what the chief said.
Yeah, I mean, it,
My
neighborhood.
You're right.
yeah, we could ask them, I think, because they have.
I think maybe.
Yeah, Stan might be able to answer that for you.
Yeah,
Was it,
At one time, I heard they were gonna actually build a little external structure to put it in.
well, so I think the chief said that would be his ideal condition would be to put it in a display case outside the station in town center. But right, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I don't think he's quite there yet. But that would be his. I think Stan, you're right. Thank you. I think that's
So
his
that would be
idea.
then your garage then, that's cool, right?
No.
They're renovating the station up by Drummond. It would be great to have it there with the playground right across the
That's what
street.
the chief
Kids
wants,
would
yeah.
love it,
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be very cool.
yeah.
It-
It wouldn't fit there. Yeah, I was gonna say, it might not fit there. That's a small piece of property.
Could put it in
should've worked
you
it
could
into
put it
the
on the
drawing
roundabout,
Yeah.
right in the middle.
You're gonna need more money than this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
No one would object.
Oh.
And obviously, there's the standard $50,000 for the admin expenses. I get that.
yeah.
You mentioned there was one project you didn't fund.
We, St. Paul's Church came back, if you remember last year, and we asked for guidance from town council about whether we can fund a church project. We asked for guidance from the State Community Preservation Coalition about it, and we had a long discussion on it.
Yeah, we really did. I mean, we were all very, very torn. It's a very worthy project that we would like to participate and help fund, but unfortunately, the case law on funding a religious institution or religious project at this time is not clear. And we didn't want to open ourselves up to any issues.
Yeah, what we think is happening, and this is a certain amount of speculation, but I believe it's reasonable, is that there is a group that is ready to pounce on and basically litigate any church project. But the city of Boston has funded a few, but they don't want to deal with the city of Boston because the city of Boston has deeper pockets than they do. They're waiting for a small community to do it that doesn't have the money, isn't willing to spend $50,000 or $100,000 in legal fees. So that's
But what they are doing in Boston is requesting all the public records and, creating the test case for it. So when it does happen, as John said, they'll be ready to pounce.
Didn't you fund something at the Unitarian Church previously, but there was a caveat. I just don't remember what it is.
Well, there was, you're right, we did fund the steeple. It was all external facing, and we did get a historical preservation restriction on the property. But that happened before the litigation. Like, if it happened today, we probably wouldn't have done it.
I see.
Yeah, yeah, so.
As a heritage building, probably you can, it can be funded, but not from the purpose of a religious institution.
What do you think, it was?
If it's a
the-
heritage building, there's no.
Yeah, it depends on how you interpret the legal decision in the Acton case. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I would really hesitate to really answer that further, just because I'm not an attorney, and it is, I mean, there's not a lot of case law there. It's a thin thing, and I mean, I would invite the town council back or suggest that. I mean, she was, you know, very knowledgeable of it and understood it pretty well, but it's pretty dicey right now, unfortunately. I mean, like I said, I think it was something that we all were very torn about. It's a very worthy project, and it's just unfortunate.
Any other questions of these gentlemen? No, we're pretty easy.
No, thank you for your kindness and breaking me in.
Thank you for your services, by the way, John.
Thank you.
you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate
Thanks
it.
for coming.
No problem. I might have to bring you back next year, just so you
Yeah.
can be my sidekick.
I think you got the drill.
Well, all right.
Don't bring it back and blame it on me.
So, Stan, you still involved with the Friends of the Trails?
What's that?
You still involved with the Friends of the Trails?
Yes.
Good project. Yep. We'll be moving on to well, the warrants in a second, but I've come down to maybe just one key question that I'd like to ask Lynn. And Lynn is basically also our guide through the warrant, because we do it once a year and we fumble. If not for Lynn, she picks the ball up and throws it back at us. I'm confused by the transfer of $1.2 million from the Health Insurance Trust Fund to OPEB, and I don't know what it means at all relative to the reserve balance, because right now, the last I saw, we have it pegged at about $3.3 million, all in. So what does that mean?
Okay, so right now, as of for 2019, based on any transfer that we've done this year, the balance is 2.6. All right, then we have the transfers of the various items, the 1.2 from the Health Insurance Trust Fund, which is the balance. Okay. The page it's on? Yeah. Okay, so it's on page, in the budget book, 61, but it's, at that point, it didn't include the 1.2, and I'll explain that, okay? I'll wait till y'all get to that page. Okay, everybody ready? Okay. So when the budget book was put together, the assumption was that we were only gonna be transferring $500,000 out of the Health Insurance Trust Fund into the OPEB trust. Through the recommendations or the working of the OPEB committee, we decided that there's no reason not to transfer the balance of the Health Insurance Trust Fund. It can only be used for these purposes other than the portion that's set aside for the PEC agreement, for the insurance for the employees, per the change when we went from the traditional insurance policy to the GIC. Yes, right. So we have a PEC agreement with the employees that it goes through till 2022. And we agreed to give them these health insurance holidays, one a year. We have 2 this coming year, and then 1 a year every year after till 2022. So that money is set aside in the Health Insurance Trust Fund for that purpose. So the 1.2 is what is left. We see no reason why we just don't transfer it now and get it into the get it into the OPEB trust, rather than just do 500 this year and then come back and vote again another 500 next year. Because you can't use it for anything else other than that, okay? Either the health insurance to employees or to the health insurance OPEB, okay? So,
So the remaining will be what will sustain until what'd you say,
2022, I believe.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So when the budget was originally put together, it was only assuming 500,000. Okay, so that's why there's a change, thinking it was originally gonna be 3.3, it's actually gonna be 4,016,000, give or take, because you're gonna have interest in there that, for the rest of the year here, that's gonna, and we hope that the OPEB trust is gonna continue to gain profits, but as you know.
For the end of fiscal year 20.
Correct, yep. And that's only based on a presumption that the trust has continued to be profitable.
Yeah.
You know, it goes up and down, you know, the stock market, but you leave it there and it eventually levels out, so.
Okay, so why on page 61 did it originally say FY20 contribution to the OPEB trust was 703,000?
Because I just explained that we had originally, when the budget was put together, we were only going to transfer 500,000 of the 1.2.
Right, I understand that, but I'm wondering why the number's 703.
Because
It's not-
that also includes the 193 sitting in the general operating budget to transfer.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All
So
right.
that's the total of all the transfers that we're recommending
Okay,
in the budget.
okay,
Okay, so we have some coming from operating, then we had some coming from the health insurance trust fund.
okay.
And now that's plus another 500K.
Well, actually,
Yeah.
more
A little more than that.
Yeah.
because it goes up, instead of 3.8, it goes up to 4 million, so.
Right, because the number for 19 includes interest to date in
It should be 3.8.
profits on the fund to date.
Oh, and that's at 3.8, because
Yeah.
we thought another 500,000, but on top of that, there's more.
More.
Right, because
okay.
if you look at the number in the book, which is 2,606,000, which was the June
Mhm.
30th.
Right.
Okay, it's actually 2,223,000 to date, because we've had profits in the OPEB trust based on the postings throughout the year. It's increased since we put the budget together, we've had
I mean, the 1720 is now 2020? I'm sorry.
What?
Let's go through the
2009.
numbers again.
Okay.
606,920 has increased, I'm saying because of
By
interest.
20, around
Interest
23,
dividends, things like that?
Yes,
Yes.
interest in investments.
Yeah.
So it's gone up to what?
6,223,039.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then we've also increased the contributions of what we're gonna do for 2020, which now brings it, so the worksheet that I had emailed to you with all, it's like the 5th tab over
Oh.
is the actual
Okay.
data where it shows the breakdown now.
Okay,
And it's,
I was confused a sec, so.
you were confused with the worksheet?
Yeah.
Oh, because it was all tabs, I'm sorry.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's why I wanted you to explain it here.
Yep, nope.
Yeah, no, it makes
That's
sense.
good.
It makes sense that you wouldn't, there's no way you'd have the right numbers when you published it.
When we publish the book, yeah, because these are only presumptions, and then as the months go by, more data becomes available.
Do you literally update this the day of town meeting?
Right, and then what happens is after town meeting, this whole book gets reproduced.
And you numbers.
With the
100%
correct
gets with
Right.
actuals, and
Yeah.
and I actually have to wait until the year end, because in order for me
Give
to
that.
present the book for the budget presentation award, I have to have the actuals for 19.
And it's extremely likely that there's still gonna be a little bit left in the budget. You can't pull it all over for next year, like,
Yeah.
because that's the way
It's the way it
dividends and interest
works.
roll.
Yeah.
These are, there's nothing draconianly different
Right,
in the final
exactly.
product,
If
so.
anything, most of the numbers have gone up.
Yeah.
Right.
In profit,
Yeah.
from interest income or things like that, yep, or investment income.
Any other specific questions for Lynn? I had a couple, but they were sort of resolved, so I'm fine with,
Okay, good.
they were
Yep.
more me being anal accountant than.
Nope, I like the questions because it helps everybody to understand everything, and
I heard the giggle from the engineer in the background. Okay. We are on to the next section here where, by the way, big time, this has gone smoothly, large part to the town management. We have had, I was called lucky by Mark Rogers, who was the finance chairman, during the difficult years. The dark days, when we were talking about negative cash and spending all the free cash and everything else. So this has been another year of not so hard, nothing controversial. So, but if you have any comments right now, Lynn, now's the time to say it, otherwise we're gonna go forth with our town warrant.
Yeah, no, I think everything is heading in the right direction. We have nothing that's coming up controversial. The only thing that you will probably have to make recommendations on at town meeting is the last and final article that will be on the special town meeting, which is the Columbia Gas, which we still haven't
Oh,
resolved that yet. And we're working on the wording we've been working with DOR to figure out the exact wording for the article. There'll be two separate articles that we'll have to add to the special town meeting to accommodate the funding that we'll potentially get from the settlement,
okay.
so that we can use it moving forward. Because if we don't vote it
And we
at
can't
the
use it.
special, we can't use it in 2020 to do the restoration. So,
Just sit there with school articles there, okay.
yep, so.
Got it.
Little background, weekend work, I did go through the draft warrant, and I compared the numbers that were in the document to what we've been studying all along. They all agree. I did have some questions. The biggest question was just resolved here, and it really had anything to do with the balance, but it had to do with, what is this? And I now fully understand. So I'm comfortable with the numbers that are in the town warrant. It is a draft document in case somebody on some other side decides to get cute and change the numbers, which has never happened in my experience on the finance committee.
No.
Change the numbers between now and town meeting rather. We have the right to rescind our vote and just say, what the heck?
Yeah,
But
it won't get changed once it goes, once this meeting votes and things.
yeah, knock on wood. The other thing, we vote to not approve, we vote to recommend up or down kind of thing. That's that's what it is. We do have,
We recommend favorable.
Favorable
we
action.
recommend favorable action. And with that, we do have, I don't know how many, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. We've got 16 warrants that we're responsible for. There's other things that are within the town warrant that have some dollars and cents, but I'm fine with these warrants as far as our making recommendations. So with that, do I have a person who's gonna be leading us through the gate, through this?
Let's, for ease of this process, some of them, I talked with Lynn, are grouped together. If you have questions, let me know. And then someone's gonna have to second my motion. Right, so I'll just go through the list. So, I move that we recommend favorable action on Articles 3, 13, and 14 as outlined in the annual town meeting warrant dated 4/3/2019.
Second.
Any discussion? Just want to make a comment. One of the parts that's a little unusual is we are increasing the revolving fund on the curriculum budget from 400 to 500. Everything else is pretty much status quo.
400 to 600.
600?
Is it?
Yeah.
500.
Why does that differ than what was presented to us by the school committee?
They said 600?
They did.
Well, last year it was 400, and we raised it to 500.
Their presentation was 600. I only know that's why I asked, because I read
Really?
all the school presentation. I could have my notes wrong, so it doesn't matter, we've already approved it, that's appropriate. It should
So
be whatever they
we're approving
requested.
out of 500.
500.
And, yep.
Yep, that's what
Good to know.
I believed.
Any comments, discussions? We had a
The
second.
window.
The wind.
All in favor of those articles that Sasha made a motion on?
Aye.
Aye. Angela, you capturing all those?
Yep, have my little chat here.
All right.
Can I ask one real quick question? Lynn, are those grouped together because that's how it's gonna be grouped together at town meeting? Or is it
could-
just for ease of us here?
It's for ease of it here, but
Okay.
it could potentially will be
Okay.
grouped. We are typically group similar ones
Yes,
that
yeah.
have really haven't changed, and there's not a lot of discussion on them.
Or we're not raising the salaries for our compensated elected
Nope.
officials? Okay.
For Article 11, then,
Yeah.
the total all funds number we want to use is, it's 5868230, correct?
I gotta find it first. Let me see. I have it right there.
That's
Okay,
correct.
say it again?
I can't see, I just can't read it, it's Majid.
Yeah,
5868230.
Yep.
Okay, great. I move that we recommend favorable action on Article 11 regarding the appropriation of funds to the capital improvement plan for fiscal year 2020 in the amount of $5,868,230.
And you should say that to be funded with chapter 90 for the 820. And then,
We have to say all that?
because we're actually.
To be funded as outlined in the warrant,
Yes.
to be funded as outlined in the annual town meeting warrant book dated April 3rd, 2019.
Second motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move that we recommend favorable action on Article 12 regarding the appropriation of funds from the Community Preservation Fund in the amount of $2,424,200 as outlined in the annual town meeting warrant dated April 3rd, 2019.
Second motion.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous. This is the big one.
Okay. I move that we recommend favorable action on Article 15 regarding the appropriation of the general fund for fiscal year 2020 in the amount of $100,388,053 as outlined in the annual town meeting warrant dated April 3rd, 2019.
Second the motion.
Question for Lynn. Annual town meeting votes $100 million. The general fund budget's 103, which includes making assessments and paying for capital reserves.
Okay, so we don't, when we vote the general fund operating budget, we vote the 100, which I have outlined here on the warrant that says the annual town meeting vote.
Yep.
The reserves and capital get voted on other articles further in the warrant book, and the state assessments never get voted at town meeting because we don't know what the true assessment's going to be, and the state allows us not to vote the assessments until we get them.
I'm fine.
Yep.
Any discussions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're gonna do Articles 16, 17, and 18 together. See appropriations for water, sewer, and the Stevens Estate. I move that we recommend favorable action on Articles 16, 17, and 18 as outlined, or for the appropriation of the Water Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2020, the appropriation for the Sewer Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2020, and the appropriation for the Stevens Estate Enterprise Fund for fiscal year 2020, as outlined in the annual town meeting warrant dated April 3rd, 2019.
Second the motion.
Discussions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're gonna do 19, 20, 21, and 22 together. I move that we recommend favorable action on Articles 19, 20, 21, and 22, which include the transfer to stabilization, the transfer to capital stabilization, transfer of funds to special education stabilization fund, and the transfer of funds from the health insurance trust to the OPEB liability trust fund, as outlined in the town meeting warrant dated April 3rd, 2019.
Second the motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? We're going to this special town meeting. Typically, it's been held at the very beginning of the town meeting to get that over with. So even though it's in the back of the book right now, I imagine it's probably gonna be moved forward, or maybe there's no reason, because Mark will just pull it out of order anyways. So the purpose of the special town meeting was to transfer money from the special education fund to the school department budget to cover shortfalls. We've had that discussion with the school committee. And also to transfer some free cash. Questions?
So are you saying the Columbia Gas article will be added at the last minute?
We'll be at, yes.
Yeah, so we
Yeah.
just won't have any recommendations for that.
No, we
No.
have a
We
meeting
can-
before
And-
town
Oh, that's
meeting.
right.
Yeah,
you
we
do.
always hold a mini
Right.
meeting.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And then we keep it open during town meeting, so
Yeah.
that if we have any,
I should know this.
no, no, no,
It's okay.
No, no, I really should.
Yeah,
you've never done it with FinCom before.
It's so radically different.
Like a bone there, just kidding. No, I'm just kidding.
So both the actions here, one, to cover their shortfall, two, to get the special ed fully funded. And it is required under our reserve policy to happen under our special town meeting. So,
Right, because it's for the current year.
correct.
Right.
I move that we recommend favorable action on Article 1 regarding the transfer of funds from the Special Education Stabilization Fund to fiscal year 2019 school department budget as outlined in the special town meeting warrant dated April 3rd, 2019.
Do I have a
Second the motion.
Any discussion, questions, concerns? No? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good, it's unanimous.
I move that we recommend favorable action on Article 2 regarding the transfer of funds from free cash to fiscal year 2019 school department budget as outlined in the special town meeting warrant dated April 3rd, 2019.
Second the motion.
Discussion? All in favor? Nice job. And again, when they do publish the town warrant final, I'll go back in and just double back to make sure nothing has changed. And, I don't expect anything to change, and Lynn would tell me anyways.
Yes, I will.
Anyway,
There
right.
will be no changes.
Okay. Let's get rid of, let's do the minutes first, just to get that out of the way.
So you guys all set?
I think, yeah, we're all set. What I will do is, well, Lynn,
Okay.
No, I see question
No, it's okay, but I
Okay.
just,
No, what do you got?
it was, my notes are, it was, I like, I'm looking at the section we wrote it. What? No.
yeah, we did
They
do
did.
the CIP.
Yep, they did at the beginning.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah,
where
yeah,
we
yeah.
talked about, and then we broke it down into what are we talking about, how it's being funded.
Yep.
Lynn, I know you want this by close of business on Friday from us, the letter.
Correct. Right, so that we can get the warrant book printed in time.
So it just as an outside possibility, which I think we've done a pretty good job so far. Monday morning, drop dead?
I think we can work that, yeah, because we won't get it to the.
I was gonna say, he was working over the weekend on this stuff.
Yep, yep.
Okay, also too, we probably wanna get a draft to you, just
To review.
Just to review, I have tried, any changes I've made in materials provided to us has been tried to be more consistent with the town warrant as opposed to the budget. The
Okay.
numbers are the same,
Yeah.
but how people look at it, they're gonna go, oh, this is what the finance committee said in the letter, but it doesn't agree to the warrant stuff.
Yeah.
So I've made the two of them tie, so that if you said, what happened to my numbers, Divya, that's exactly what happened.
Because the budget book presents everything, the
Yeah.
warrant is only certain things you have to vote on. in
Correct.
essence.
And also too, that you consolidated, move things around, whatever, I get that, it's fine. So with that, any questions for Lynn? Let her move. I mean, we could keep her for probably 2 more hours, but we're not gonna do that.
Yeah,
I don't think you're
but
gonna
I know
keep me for
I
2
will,
hours.
'cause my wheels are spinning, but I'll just email you or call you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Not a problem.
Yeah, thank you for everything.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you've been so responsive, like, geez, I texted or emailed you on Sunday. I'll have something to you by the morning.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks, Lynn. Have a good night.
Yeah, you too.
Before we go further, just like, no, so there won't be any further public comment, okay, good. That slide is, this is Stan's spot. You know what, we were gonna make a little memorial plaque on these, on these the public hearings. Thank you very much, Stan.
I was gonna say something about CPC because the CPC guy showed up, so.
And also the answer to the Affordable Housing Trust, because I looked it up before they left, 654,000 right now.
Okay.
As of the end of February, so, just so you know. Okay?
By the way, who manages or monitors that, CPC,
The Affordable Housing Trust,
as far as the oversight goes?
no, they do. And I give, it's on our ledger, and I do a report to them every month to give them what the balance is. We reconcile the bank statement and things like that.
Okay,
We disperse the funds, so it all comes to us.
very good.
Okay? Good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you,
Have a good
Stan.
night. Thanks.
We have the minutes before us from March 19th. That's where we had Steve Foster, Chris, and Lynn before us, facilities manager, IT. Any discussions on the minutes?
I move that we approve the minutes from the meeting date March 19th, 2019.
Second.
So, Chris seconded. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, Thomas. We are gonna go into the warrant letter now, and I had Sasha and I talked about what's the process for getting this thing done. I'm gonna let you take that while I just take a little couple break here, but why
Yeah.
don't you go through what
Great.
our plan was and we go forward.
Sure. So, Tim and I have been working on this, and Chris has definitely reviewed it and helped out with some editing too, which was awesome. So, I think it would be appropriate if we just kind of looked it over. This is not final. I had limited time, so there definitely needs to be some additional editing, making sure that it's all in one voice, that things are denoted in the same way, you know, the millions, the FYs, all that stuff. So anything like that would be something not to note. If there's anything that you have a question about or any big conceptual thing that you think we should talk about more, I know I have a few that I think we should talk about, just make sure we all agree with some of those broader statements.
Do you run the school stuff by the superintendent? I'm just curious, or do we just do ours?
I sent an email to the superintendent
Yeah.
asking any questions to make sure
Yeah.
anything that,
Well, no,
We
I
have-
saw that, I just wondered, do they ever say like, hey, can you show me what you're looking to view for accuracy? I only ask this
no.
because this is my first rodeo for
no,
this.
because we take those numbers directly from the
Okay.
budget material or the strategic plan that's published online or what's been presented in PowerPoints to
Okay.
us. And the opinions are,
And their opinions are the
Ours.
opinions of the, yes.
oh.
So we're spending a few minutes to read it?
I just said, you know, not for grammar or wording, but more big contextual items or?
Especially if we say, the finance committee says.
Exactly. I didn't do this. Angela, is there another remote down there? Or is this the other one?
Oh, no,
I think it started.
oh, there you go.
How that happened? How does that work?
Full screen, is that not
No.
what you wanted?
No, it wasn't really what I was looking for here. Hold on.
Amazon Prime, maybe, you know?
No, it's behind you, Liv.
Oh.
Oh, the screen.
Let's try this.
You want it on this
Embarrassing
one?
splash. That's pretty.
Wait, maybe I'm supposed to do this.
Just glad you're doing it, not me.
Oh, so we have the $600,000 number.
Yeah, then I'll change it,
We'll
but
have to change
that's
that,
in
okay.
their,
Yeah.
that's in their
No,
presentation.
no, that's, yeah. No, I believe
Do
you.
you think that was just an error on their part?
It's a big error.
That's why I asked.
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good.
Cause they went from 2 to 4 last year, so
Right.
it seemed natural to me that they would go from 4 to
But
6.
it's not, it's
But
4 to
it's
5.
5.
Fine.
You know, something like that happened the prior year too.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
They actually asked for X amount curriculum, and we ended up getting less.
Do you know how to do this?
Cause that's concerning,
Yeah.
Or they just didn't,
I mean, it could be, you know, just clerical.
did I screw this up completely?
Yeah, I mean,
But, you know,
It was definitely 600,000.
Screen mirroring? Is that what it is?
but that's a big, when it comes.
I was supposed to cast to what, Co Gilligan MPM 7? internet connection is not currently available. Device name, hold on. Let's try this again.
Correct back there, so it's either the input or at least they changed anything to the system. That looks like it's Chromecast.
Hold on. I just opened a new window to
Okay.
try to to switch it
Yeah,
up.
might be this
See if
one.
it would come up, a new one
This
would
is
come up.
HDMI 2.
It doesn't cast tab
But how did you connect to the other one, the other TV?
through here. I just pressed this one. See, this is what I've always done and it comes up there. So something on that is different than what it usually is.
It's not the screen mirroring?
Looks like it's for
Never works.
a Bluetooth or,
'Cause that's
Only
what
when Chris is
this,
here.
This is the image
Wait,
that I have back in
MP,
the.
that's, hold on,
There you
that's
go.
it. What setting was that?
HDMI
3, 2?
2.
Okay, so good to know. HDMI 2, everyone? I promise and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Much appreciated. Okay, so the formatting, because this is Google Docs, is not great. So I'll go back to like a Word document for formatting purposes after this, and then I'll fix it up, and then I'll upload it as a PDF for everyone's viewing pleasure. So, Tim, do you want to just kind of run through this and take each section by section and talk about it like that?
So we'll do that right now, and I think there is some standardization that we'll need to do. And by the way, look to last year's document to standardize. Ways to be nothing better than being consistent. And
Standardizing what?
fiscal year 2020, fiscal year 20, and all that stuff. I know we're gonna take.
Yeah, I thought you meant like formats, because that's consistent.
The, in the second paragraph of the summary, it should read just committee. There is no it's not a subcommittee, it is a committee.
The one thing I would also wanted to ask about or discuss is the first paragraph. And would it make sense to review what like the charter says our primary role is and use the same language so that it's really clear, so there's no, because are we really looking at if they're delivering the most cost-effective services? Not really.
Yeah, that's not,
Yeah, that's not really
that's not what
yeah.
we do. I mean,
Is it wiser to say prudent use? But if you just say, let's look to the charter.
I'm thinking we could just pull the language right from
Yeah.
there so it's consistent. Because I think
Well,
the
that would
public
help
gets
it.
very confused about what the finance committee is.
Yeah, I know, you should
Yeah.
pull it from whatever's right on the website.
Right.
Absolutely. And in the subcommittee thing, okay, so if it's not truly a subcommittee, you still can't say active contributors in the selectmen's committee on other posts. How about selectmen's appointed committee? There's got to be something else in there.
That'd be fine.
yeah.
Okay. You see what I'm saying? Instead of sub, put appointed.
Great. Got it. Oh, I'm doing this by hand when I have this right here. Sorry, guys.
Old habits die hard.
Yeah, seriously. Selectmen's appointed.
That makes sense. That's just less confusing.
I agree.
Great. And then this we will highlight because we're gonna change language at.
Yeah, the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just highlight that so we remember.
To be consistent with
the-
our charter.
Yeah, so the other thing that, and I kind of took what you wrote, and I took some liberties, but knowing that we should talk about it and kind of decide if this is how we want to approach it. Tim had already had this in here, but I don't know if challenges is the right word. But essentially, there's two major areas looking forward that I think we focused on throughout the report. There's probably two more like challenges, but one is addressing school facilities, and the second is OPEB.
Oh, you're down on the third.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I skipped.
1, 2,
The
3,
fourth-
fourth paragraph.
paragraph.
Challenge isn't such a bad word.
Yeah, I think it is okay, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because to me, I think of the facilities improvements as an opportunity to like improve. Like I don't want to cloud.
You don't have
the
the word challenges,
conversation.
you wanna see opportunities as opposed
You
to
know
challenges.
what I'm trying to say by that.
Yeah.
So I struggled with that word. And then the other two things I don't know if we want to. Well, no, I'm not gonna.
Is needs a better word?
Well, the thing is that's why I don't really object to challenges, because they are. I mean, they're
Yeah.
gigantic things. They're bigger than just needs. They're just,
Yeah.
they're hurdles. I mean, you know, you could say hurdles, but, but they're
Yeah.
items that need to be looked at and concentrated on, and you shouldn't, let's not take our gaze away from these. And that's why
Mhm.
challenge is kind of a good word, because it's
It's a
It's-
huge task.
it's a
You
huge
hear the
task.
Rockies
Yeah,
theme
yes,
music in
yeah.
the background.
Right, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and it is.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
not a negative word, challenge, yeah, it's a huge.
I don't see it as a negative.
Around?
Yeah.
I mean, why are you saying funding requirements? I mean, that's what it is. So,
See,
what do you
you
wanna
mean
say
saying
with
mid
challenges?
and long-term
That's a-
funding
I want to be more
requirements?
specific. I think that's a great point. So funding.
So what you're gonna tell me, I mean, this letter is, I read it from somebody who never
Yep.
looked at the budget, you know? And what do we wanna tell him?
I think
So
putting
that he doesn't have to read
funding is a
through
great.
all these.
Funding
I
requirements?
think that changes the concept. I think that's a good,
Because,
an
okay,
absolutely
So
good
can I have a
point.
proposal for what the words are? I'm sorry, I can't, I'm up here.
Funding
Well,
challenges.
This says, this
Long-term.
committee sees mid and long-term funding requirements in two major areas. Okay, funding a requirement means right now.
We've already locked it in, we're
Yeah.
gonna do it.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
that's the only thing, and I like the
Funding
word funding.
challenge.
I
but
like funding challenges. I think.
Funding challenges, yeah, funding
But I
challenges.
like adding funding.
Because, yes,
that
I like
changes
that too.
out the money.
Yes.
And that's what I mean. I don't want it to be like that's. I think why I had a problem with challenges. So I think that makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Yeah,
Okay, I'm good with
good,
that.
The first
Put that
challenge will
in.
be addressing the
Yep.
necessary improvements to school facilities and stuff. All right.
that makes sense.
And then and I added at large allocation of capital from state funding and or increased revenue sources or debt. We're getting to, because it's like the
Call it
elephant.
what it is, call it what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do we wanna say assumption of debt, or is debt okay just by itself?
Increased sources, because it means revenue sources or debt.
Okay.
I can say revenue or debt sources. See, so it's both.
Yeah.
Not me, us. I just meant me typing.
You want someone to win the megabucks.
What's that?
Contribute, we want someone to win the megabucks and contribute to the town.
Yeah, that's the first thing that I would do.
That's what I would do too.
Yeah, mhm.
I'd change my
Definitely.
name.
And I'd have my accountant cash in the ticket for me.
I
So-
think where you talk about the second long-term challenge is regarding, I think you wanna say the second long-term funding challenge is, or the second long-term challenge is the funding of
Regarding
employee retirement.
Yeah, I think she's right.
the funding.
Instead of
The
regarding,
funding
is the
of.
funding of employee retirement and healthcare.
obligations. Yeah.
Okay.
And then it would be whose growth rates, not with growths, you'd have
Yeah.
to,
Yeah. Well, I'll go
Whose
back
growth
through
rates
it
are
and
3
read.
times
Yeah.
that of our historical.
Yeah.
As long as we're all agreed on the
Yeah.
I'm fine.
tone. Budget review. Any questions, comments? I think Tim,
Just consistency, you know. You know, we always say million, so, but now,
I'm gonna go through and,
so,
because this,
so there's, you know, are we having 2 decimals? Have we 1, you know, sometimes it's 4.32,
Yeah, that
and the
hasn't
next
been
time
finished
it's
yet, yeah.
5.2.
You're absolutely right.
So
Yeah.
that we have that
It's
consistent.
throughout this document, by the way. I took
Yeah.
a look, there's 600,000 spelled out in all.
no, but I mean, but
No,
those are
it's
things
most-
that just haven't been
we
edited
just,
out.
yeah, so
Yeah,
with,
set you and edited those.
That, I mean,
Yeah.
see, my other pet peeve is a number should never be written as a number unless it's a percentage or a fraction. So anything that says two should be TWO, you know.
Yeah.
But, those are, and by the way, I'm happy to do that.
And we're happy to have you.
Seriously.
You have no idea.
By the way, I'm gonna echo what Tom has said. I'm an outsider coming in and looking at this thing. And I wanna get comfort from this thing.
Yes, that's hope so.
So, the little touches, like you just suggested, might be important for giving people more comfort about the value or the professionalism of what we put into this document. So even though like, I'm looking at you, the cross-eyed is like,
No, that will
Oh,
all
no,
get done.
I edit
We-
newsletters, I just was doing one today, and one of the guys
You know,
threw, was there always THRU, I mean, like, where did you
so I grow from a world of short and
drive me
sweet. Get
Up
through
in a
it.
barn, yes.
Short and so I have short and sweet in my
Yeah.
lexicon of things, but this is a balance of,
It's like, you know, that's not, you can't write that way, so, anyway,
I'm good.
How
But
did we
it-
select the bullet points?
How do we select them?
Yeah, so what was the rationale?
that's
What's the
just,
message in these bullet points?
I think it's just how that, it was, written first time around, I don't know, we might not want to have bullet points, but.
Oh, as far
we-
as bullet points? No.
How do we choose the
I-
ones to highlight, I think is what you're asking, right?
Yeah,
Why are we highlighting these
Why are we
things?
picking those, you know, and what?
What's
What are
important,
we-
what's
what-
important to you? for
What have we
general
got? No, I'm just I didn't write it, I was just wondering who wrote it, so why did we pick the bullet points we picked? So what was the message the writer wanted to give here with these bullet points?
I think this has been, had a couple different people working on it, so I think it'd be a really good opportunity now to discuss what we want to say.
Right, well,
No, I
Set
agree.
up.
So I think
The
Divya and I
highlights.
both took a focus on this when we first put it together. I took a stab, Divya took a stab, of what are the big numbers that we should probably not overlook? Property taxes, local receipts, debt service, the school budget. Things
The
that's-
first three are your revenue
Right.
bullet.
It also
revenue
falls
and
in
the
line
expense.
Yeah.
with what was written last year. So for
Major
consistency
revenue and
purposes,
expense,
under,
basically.
it's very similar to the budget summary section from last year. This document in general is pretty consistent with last year, except for it omits the executive summary. Which,
And it highlights the major expense and the revenues.
yeah, for me, it's just, it's kind of jumping, we go from, the first two bullet points are about the receipts, and they cover 95% of that. Then we go to debt, then we go to school, then we go to retirement assessment, then we go to
What's the-
stabilization fund.
Right.
And then we go back to the general fund, so.
what would you
just-
propose, for like, taking some of these out, or would you just propose, moving them around, or what do you think would be most effective?
Yeah, it confused me a little bit, so what is the,
Definitely work in
what's the message going from top to down?
This is covered by Thomas's section. We could actually, I'm just suggesting we're not taking that out.
What, the debt?
The debt service, I'm not concerned about that. It doesn't pop, it's
So,
boring.
question, what, I think, to Thomas's point though, what is the intention of this section? Because last year, this section was created so that when people don't always get to the whole letter. So do we want that in,
So what are
Okay,
the
my-
highlights? You do wanna talk about the revenue sources. Where's our revenue come from?
Well,
I think the first two bullet points are fine.
Then,
So
Then
talk
what-
about all the revenue sources to begin with,
But-
that you wanna talk
So
about.
take
Where
out
does the
debt?
money,
Yeah.
where does the
That's,
money
you said it's
go?
95% of it right there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but now is where does the money go?
Right, so if you had to say importance, I put the
That
school
out.
budget bullet up there next.
Yes.
really, I would take it out,
Why?
cause right below it, you
Yeah,
say
the
the
whole-
same exact thing.
The old school,
The school section is right below it, and it's,
I got a better idea.
wait,
Just say, in one bullet, you could say, the school budget, just don't take my words down. The school budget's going up 3.75%, and the general funds, other municipal funds are going up 2.9.
That's not a bad idea, because if you're gonna just glaze through it and read it, you're like, oh, and then, then you get to see something, because the school budget is such a significant part of the, then you see a whole article on it. No, I like that.
increased by how much?
Hang on, it's like,
Nine.
you're 2.8,
well, yeah, but up there it says 2.9, so
Someone
I was
lied.
confused by that.
someone lied.
Yeah, one of my comments is, up in the top it
So we
says
should be-
2.9, and down here we say 2.8, so
Yeah.
yeah.
I have it somewhere.
In the book, it's 2.9. In the book, it's 2.9.
But it's, how's it read on walls?
One of the things that I struggle with in this, and looking at that one where we say 2.8, that bullet, we say departmental budgets exclusive of schools and non-department costs
Yep.
will increase 2.8. What does that even mean? Non-depart, you know,
Well,
what does that even mean to
Means
someone?
something to me and you maybe.
Yeah, but it's not gonna mean anything to
So
the
just-
average
just get
person.
rid of
I
it.
think we
We'll
just
take this
should
out.
Take
take
that out.
that, all that sort of parsing out, because
agree.
people don't really care.
Just
the
take it
whole
out
thing.
completely.
And
Yeah.
then I think we
2.9 is
take
fine.
this bullet out because it's right here. It's twice.
Oh, yeah, she is.
Yeah,
she's
right
right.
It is twice,
So take the bullet out.
Take it out.
yeah.
So then we get down to here, take it out. I get rid of the retirement assessment
You want, get
Yep,
rid of.
because it's already, it's covered down below in
Anything
detail.
that has been, yeah.
Well, all
that-
this is
all
covered
of
down
them
below in
is
the
covered, is the
detail, it's
point.
all covered in the detail, the question is, what do we wanna
I like
highlight?
this, the stabilization funds are important, the staffing, and then the big chunk, you know, which are important to people, can I turn on my water and flush my toilets?
I mean, why do you
Yeah.
wanna get rid of retirement? It's just,
The retirement-
it's a one sentence thing.
Cause, Thomas, I'm gonna actually defer to Thomas, cause he was like I like what you were going with this, so do you have a problem with keeping retirement in by itself? Cause it sort of stands out by itself.
Yeah, but then I wouldn't, I would at the end or so, so that doesn't, we're
It
not
doesn't
jumping.
cut everything, it needs
we're-
to be, yeah.
Yeah, it just needs to
We're
be
not
placed
jumping
somewhere else.
around.
Yeah.
Another suggestion, not to do right now though, is when we edit this again, there will be keywords in every one of those bullet points, which just should be bolded. So like property taxes, just bold, property taxes, and then, then whatever is the most salient, I know, I'm gonna drive you out of my mind.
We'll let her do that.
She will.
You want bolded?
Just for, just,
So,
I mean, because
that's-
every bullet point, because if you scan it over with your, if you're scanning it,
You're absolutely right.
that's what,
But I like to, you know what, you're fresh, I'm gonna let you do that, once we
I
have the
have-
words down.
I have no problem with
Okay.
that.
Do we need to keep stabilization funds and reserves a hallmark of, are healthy? I like that, but that's just me. I do like the staffing.
I think it should be below that though, so it should be like property taxes, local receipts, stabilization fund, water and sewer, staffing, retirement. Or retirement staffing,
So
Retirement
again-
can be at the end.
so like this.
And I think you have to have retirement there because that's just such a, I don't know, it's a big item.
Good. And by the way,
It
no,
weighs heavily.
that's fine.
What?
No, that's fine.
And we have it as a section,
We do.
Yeah, but that's okay.
No, that's why, yeah.
Yeah.
Initially, I thought, if we had the first page, a summary, and then the budget overview, and kind of then, and if you wanted more details, we have one sentence, school department, and then, under paragraph 3, more detailed, school department. And then you say something, I don't, maybe we want to change the sorting, or, the budget is for me 3 pieces. There's the general funds, which is partly school and non-school, and then the enterprise funds. Those comprise the whole budget.
Right.
Those are 3 buckets.
Yep.
And then within those buckets, we have the retirement, we have the debt service, those are kind of focused areas. You cannot add up retirement and debt, that doesn't really, we just take out a couple of things we feel it's important to talk about. For me, is when I read a text like that, I would like to add things up, and I can't really add anything up. It doesn't really, we're not sorting it the way. For example, we say a lot about the school budget, when we're saying nothing about the general budget. About 50% of, we're not saying anything. About the police, fire, and. There's no mentioning. And you know what I mean?
You mean public safety?
Yeah, we don't say anything. We just pick the school department. We pick the retirement, we pick the reserves, which I think it's all good. We
we
pick
need-
capital improvement and then,
So you need a bullet about departmental budgets, but we
And-
had one, we deleted it, so we
and
can
then-
add one back.
And then enterprise funds all the way at the end, you know. For me, it would be general funds, school department, enterprise funds. And that adds up to $100 million, $101 million. And then we have
Do you mean in the larger paragraphs, not in these bullets? In the larger paragraphs, we need one paragraph that is,
and then those bullet
public
points
safety.
reflects the same. The first bullet point is about the revenue.
Revenue.
Second
Yeah.
bullet point, non-school general funds.
So you have
Third
parent-
bullet point, school
yeah.
funds.
So
Fourth
Thomas, you-
bullet point, enterprise funds. And then we have the retirement as an extra bullet, reserves as an extra bullet, and capital expense as an extra bullet, which we are then discussing in more details.
So here's where, would we, again, not, because we're not getting into any great detail at all, would you just include the operating budget, maybe we went too far. Anyways, somehow put those three segments you had, that you discussed, in one paragraph. In other words,
No.
you just would basically say, school budget, $50 million.
I think you take it down to like a really, really, like, basic level. You say, it's comprised of these things.
Yeah,
This equals this dollar amount, this equals this dollar, in percentage, and just break it down. And then you have the detail of
Yeah.
the
I mean,
specific departments.
And I like it when it says like, which represents a 5% increase, or, you know.
But also like an
Exactly.
explainer, so people who read it know what's
Right.
what.
And
how
you
it
could
works.
even point to the paragraphs, you know?
Yeah,
In these
see
bullet
paragraph,
points and
yeah.
see more details, paragraph
Yeah,
3, school department. And maybe we don't have a separate
I think it's a great idea.
explanation of the other general funds
Who
without
cares
school
about the
budget.
police? I mean, I love the police, we'll get their own
Yeah.
public here. But, I mean, but getting into that level of detail
It's too much.
is too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I like the fact that people can say, oh, I came away from that now understanding that 50% of my budget is spent on the school. 30% is spent on the municipalities, and then we have 20%, I'll call it shared, other things. That, because now the water, I wouldn't include the water enterprise in that grouping, because they're different. They're self-sustaining.
yeah.
Yeah.
I always said
Enterprise
it
funds.
as a third part, yeah.
But that way people know my $103 million, these are my three houses being carved out. And to your point, they'll see the percentage, they could calculate themselves what they want as far as what are the percentage of the total. But also you could put next to them in a column, year-over-year growth.
Yeah,
And,
especially if it's significantly different or,
because that $103 million doesn't include the water department.
Also, it's not only the general fund, I never really
Yeah.
know what's included.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's-
three.
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
So it doesn't include it, they're
No.
self-sustaining
Yeah,
funds, so.
no enterprise.
Does that make sense, Sasha?
Yeah, who's doing it?
You. I can do it, that's a simple table.
No, I just mean in general. So if someone wants to take that section, and take another,
Thomas will.
The budget
He's
review
got such a
section.
good idea. Such a rat.
Yeah, I can do that.
you wanna even if you don't have time to do a full, but, send it to me and then
Yeah.
I'll add that in.
No, but seriously, you have a very clear idea.
A very
in your head,
clear
and I like it.
pattern, and I
If you
think
rough it
it'll-
out, even, and then just
I love
send
it.
it along, that's,
We can fill it in.
Person's
if you don't.
takeaway, I learned something new today about the budget, that, you and I take it for granted, when you know what the numbers are, but, yeah, good idea.
Alright. So I'll highlight this.
And again, I would love to have this summary and the budget overview on the first page.
So here's the, we did this last year and then moved away from it. So if we wanna go back to something like that, like last year, we had a tearaway page, an executive summary. We didn't have an introduction like this. I thought there was some discussion and people wanted to move back to a summary. If that's not the case, we can take that summary, those 5 paragraphs, make them into bullet points or 1 paragraph, have them 5 bullet points or 6,
Yeah.
and then combine them with the budget review, eliminate both sections, call it an executive summary, and move on.
yeah.
Does that make sense?
And we could
Yeah.
we could throw we could
I
throw the
like the
enterprise ones.
summary, which is really more wording, really high level, and then if this next section is that budget overview where somebody can see how my 101 million is broken down into these two buckets, you know, school, non-school.
Right, but you just asked for them to be on the first page. You can't have 5 paragraphs, and that's what I mean.
No,
Yeah,
we,
there's no
we gotta
budget.
shorten that. We gotta shorten the summary and the budget overview.
that's what she
So
was
if
just
somebody,
saying.
Yeah, that's,
That's what she was saying.
That's what
Yeah,
she was
yeah.
saying.
I mean,
Summarizing the-
whether it's bullet points or not, I don't,
That's how you shorten it. That's how you get the whole, all those ideas.
Yeah.
And you do it in bullets instead of
You
full
know,
sentences.
sometimes when you put your, the match to your foot kind of thing, you gotta move it. So there's probably a whole paragraph in there you can just yank out, and no one would miss it.
Why don't, Thomas, if you wanna take, I get what you're saying, so if you wanna take the budget review part, just that part, and try to tailor it down to what you think is appropriate for a budget review, I'll take the summary and I'll try to tailor that down, and we can make it a first page, 1-page executive summary,
That's great.
Yeah,
okay?
I think with your FinCom thing, take, really, because what's on the website is pretty
Can we
brief.
take that out?
Well, just like,
Is that, who puts that,
I just did consistent with prior years, and that's all. No, take it out.
which part?
I think they put that in there.
What, the
For
very, very
someone from
first, the
town.
one in
Yeah.
italics?
It goes in this box, but
That
yes.
box?
yeah.
I don't remember having that in our thing
Oh.
last year. I think someone I think they add that in the.
That could be because it's just so.
Let's take it out.
It explains why
I mean,
The only
everything's in
concern I
there.
have is
You know-
Okay.
format when we.
So-
Because what you really wanna know, I mean, I would, if I was reading this and didn't know anything about it, I would say the finance committee, like, what do they do? And it's like, it's so always good to put the roles and responsibilities, cause usually they're really succinct and brief. You know, like,
And
No, I
then
agree.
tell you, if you
You
wanna
know.
do a budget review that really gives people an idea of how the budget, make it a pie chart.
Well, that's redundant. The kind of the problem
The-
with that is it's redundant
yeah.
to what's in.
In the book, yeah.
But,
Is that
people don't have the budget book
is
when
that
they walk
anywhere
into
ever in the
town
warrant?
meeting.
In the warrant?
No, it's not.
Okay.
So what
fair.
so what I'm saying
Fair.
is, I think what Thomas is saying is,
could
you
do
know,
both.
it's all very
It's not-
wordy and complicated, maybe we should, I
It's
mean,
not
if you
that
wanna
much
make it
more.
simple, how is it hacked up?
No, I think it's
Put
a
it
good
in a
idea,
pie chart.
but I don't think it should be replacing the words, particularly if
Yeah.
he does
Yeah.
the words
Yeah.
concisely.
But maybe pop in a pie chart,
Pop in a-
because
a pie
that
chart
never
is-
appears, that was one of the things I'm thinking about, you know, as you're talking about how the average
do
person
hit
walks
those
into town
visual
meeting,
quotes.
they get the warrant,
Sorry?
and they get
The
the
visuals.
letter, but they don't really
Always
get,
the visuals.
they don't have the budget book.
Right.
They might, a couple people might bring
Well,
it along with them, but.
And we can do this like we can put it in a format where we can add together. Okay, so the takeaway is that we're gonna make an executive summary section similar to last year's kind of tearaway
Oh.
sheet,
Yeah, but
and then
break, yeah,
but
which
much more
includes,
brief.
which includes the budget review section.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there will be no budget review section. So I'll try to tailor down the summary. Thomas will try to create and tailor down the budget review. We'll put it together as part of the final draft.
I like
And then
that.
if,
Sound good?
then if the logic follows there, are we gonna add here before the school department, is there gonna be a section that deals with the municipal budget?
Maybe there's, no, that's legitimate. That's like a 2-paragraph.
Right, with the
key
highlights from the,
personnel
right, they've
ads
added some
and
people, right.
Key budget additions.
Exactly,
for
and then
sites.
you're being consistent,
You had
because
the
your
head
problem
count.
is
I had
that, yeah.
I sent,
You had the head count
Yeah.
people in there, which is great. That'd be a paragraph
Yeah.
by itself.
So then it would be, okay,
What would
Yeah.
you title it? I mean,
municipal budget.
just municipal budget.
Yeah,
And then
just
school
a
department.
section,
Municipal budget,
municipal,
school
school
department
department,
budget. That makes
retiree,
more
yeah.
sense. So it's an executive
Does this
summary.
sort of still fit your?
yeah, I did the
Yeah.
municipal budget, general fund municipal budget.
And in that, you leave the enterprise fund completely out of the first 4 or 5 pages. So
Right.
that's a complete different thing.
'Cause they're
It's,
kind of an off-budget item anyway.
They are,
self-sustainable
well, they're
in and
completely
out.
Yeah.
different, he's not
They're
wrong, I mean,
completely
they are.
different, yeah.
Okay, so
That's,
that works.
And even the reserves kind of fall in that category, I mean, yeah, cause do the transfers actually hit the budget? They do,
Yeah.
they do,
Municipal.
okay,
They're part
so
of the
yeah, so
operating
they're part of the budget.
Municipal budget.
Okay, alright, let's
Then
keep
school
rolling here.
budget, then
Just
enterprise.
highlights, so school department, anyone have
That's
comments
correct.
or disagree with any of the assertions we're making?
500,000.
Well, besides the 500,000.
That's.
I've got a question about
Also, maybe
the,
another email to Jim Neely saying,
What happened?
yeah, what happened, just because that.
It's very,
Yeah.
that's why I went, what?
Yeah, really, and I'm so glad that you guys had that in your head, because I didn't, and geez Louise.
Question, Liz?
The first paragraph where we deal with that, I know, we had that whole kind of strange thing with the
Yeah.
level services, not including the cost of the social emotional learning program at the elementary level, which is being funded as a one-time expense of $120 by the municipal budget, which I know they had this kind of squirrely deal. And in future years is anticipated to produce a cost saving, and my question is, so then it will be rolled back into the school budget, that was the plan, right?
Because it won't be an expense.
It won't be an expense because it's,
But they
well,
wanna-
or it'll be washed by what it saves.
Right, so they
It won't be
basically
in.
they don't want to memorialize it within the school budget, because then if it doesn't produce a cost saving.
How's this?
They're
is
not
antici-
gonna,
is
they're not gonna
anticipated to
fund it
pay for
again.
itself.
Yeah,
Is anticipated to pay for itself.
Yeah, that's much.
Yeah.
It's not unlike when we started full-day kindergarten, the state was gonna pay for it,
mhm,
but they weren't going to pay for it for like until the following
Right,
year.
right.
So
So
the
you had to kind of
town
put a
had to
placeholder.
put the chunk of the money, so it came out of the municipal budget.
Okay.
And it couldn't be part of the school budget, cause it would just,
Blow
Get
the
stuck in
base
there.
out.
the
Yeah.
percentage would just like be way out of whack.
Right.
I mean, it
Okay.
wouldn't be wrong.
But this was only, I mean, this isn't that much, I don't know, I think it's a little disingenuous, like, and I think that it should be part of the school budget, and it should stand on its own because
Cost
of
of school is
what
cost
it
of
is.
school.
That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I kinda think that
it's
too,
not
but, you know.
what is being represented, what was explained, that's the reason they're doing it, so.
If you really want to know my opinion, I don't think it's ever gonna pay for itself, so.
We'll see.
We will see.
Just
Yeah.
also from a view of, do people really know what it means, level services? I still don't really know what that means.
It's the same as last year.
Yeah, no, I know,
If you were
but
not,
No.
isn't there a better word? Isn't there?
The same services?
no,
Well,
level
here's the
services,
I mean,
is a
I
pretty
know
standard
the school
budgeting term.
committee always says level services, you know, the finance.
It is the language that they use, if you start,
I understand, but
Okay.
if
What do you
I,
mean?
if I tell this Chris, my Chris,
Mhm.
she said, what is that?
Mhm.
You know? I know you know it,
yeah.
and a small group of people know it. But I think somebody reads that for the first time, what does that mean? What is,
No, and I
Cost
can,
of
I can
level
totally
services.
appreciate
Yeah.
that, although, but if you start using other words for it, that might be just as confusing,
Confusing,
because the
yeah.
school department has been so consistent in using the word level services. I mean, and you could have a little definition thing, you know, what
Level
does that
services
mean?
including, some.
Well, no, a level services, it
just
just means
level
like, if we have exactly the same stuff this year as we had last year.
What's it gonna cost
This
us?
is what it's gonna cost,
Right.
and it almost always costs more, and that's
Because of
was-
inflation.
in the bad years, that was our big problem. Level services means that we have 60 teachers now, we're gonna have 60 teachers again, where everything's the same, but it's costing us 300 grand more. Why? Because it's the second year of the teacher's contract, because, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
fill in the blank.
Because- yeah.
And then, if your budget goes up 3% and then they only wanna give you 2%, then you're screwed, you have
You
to
have to
cut
cut.
So
teachers.
if
Yeah.
there's a way to footnote that,
Yeah,
it's an
yeah,
easy thing to do,
footnote
but
it.
So,
I don't.
I don't, how do you say that with just one word? And I get it, I mean,
Here's the other
there's
thing.
all this acronyms and all that stuff, I mean, man, it's really hard to understand somebody from the school department sitting there talking about what they're doing. Holy
You know,
moly, I totally get
Maybe
that,
we can
but-
have an asterisk.
If, Thomas, I think your point's well taken. It should be like a footnote, because you're right. You and I have, but we've grown up learning what it meant. If I could footnote that thing, I probably would. Maybe in the definitions somewhere we could do that, but I don't know. And in fact, when Greg Gilligan, Superintendent Gilligan gets up in front, he will talk about level services.
He will say level services.
So for the people in the audience, they'll
Unfortunately.
know what that means. Here's my little pet peeve,
What?
FTEs.
Oh,
So,
Yeah.
this is what I'm gonna say, this is easy, this is so easy. In the fourth line, it says additional FTEs, make that parenthetic,
Yeah.
and before that, say staff. Or staffing associated with
say
additional
the
staff.
words,
Full-time
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 equivalents.
employees,
Yes.
yeah.
Full-time
Yeah.
equivalent.
Full-time employees.
equivalent, but full-time
Yeah.
employees, that's fine, full-time employees, but just
I thought
there's
it was
there's
in
a
there.
few
And
things
you can
in
keep the-
here.
You can keep the app, capital F, capital T,
Yeah.
capital E,
Yeah.
and the people will know.
You know,
FTE.
and by the way, do it just like they do in every other document, the first time you say it,
Yeah.
in
You bold
parentheses
it and
beside
you run
it,
it.
you just put
Yeah.
FTE, and then you can use FTE the whole way through.
It's like a legal
100%,
contract, yeah.
I thought it was in
Yeah,
there.
I agree with you.
Okay, we're done. Moving on.
But there's other things in there that are like that. I mean, just like you did with social emotional learning, SEL.
Yeah, that's a good
It's
example.
the exact same thing.
People still gotta go, huh? But that's okay.
Right, exactly. But then you go back and you go, wait, they said what it was, you know? The language thing is tough, but I don't know how you
Is
can.
it full-time equivalent employees? Cause it's full-time equivalents.
It is
but it's a-
full-time equivalents, but
I always say full-time employees, it's much
So-
more understandable.
Full-time
don't-
equivalent, and you could have those, each of those capitalized, or FTE, and then you can say employees. Lowercase.
No, I just look up with, associated with additional full-time employees, FTEs, and then I'm gonna use FTEs going forward.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
You eliminated a word.
I still don't know what that means really, but.
What's that, FTE?
as opposed to
I
a
would-
part-time.
Yep, I mean, I'm 25 years as CFO, I've never ever used FTEs.
And you
because I
know-
think
and you
it's
know
so
why?
respectless to tell somebody you're an FTE, you know?
We were
It's
full-time.
I'm just the
hours
opposite, I
a
came from a
week.
large company, and we knew what
Increment.
the FTEs were, and that's how we reduced our cost.
Yeah.
Get rid of the-
I mean,
get rid of the
I
accountants.
just.
How many FTEs is that? That's 3.
I guess I think to Chris's point that we're trying to use the same language that's consistently used throughout every other document and throughout like all the other committees. So, because otherwise it's, I think, more confusing.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
more confusing. I mean, especially when they stand up there and speak the words. I mean, that's, I know, I get it.
Yeah, I do too.
Well, why do you find FTEs, what was the word
Ah,
you
there you
used? Do you
go. I
find
had it in here somewhere.
You just said something about you find it
What did you find?
I had full-time
Respectless,
equivalent in
I'm-
here.
I don't wanna be considered
disrespective?
A number,
respect,
as a,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
I don't wanna be an FTE.
No, that's great culture. That
Yeah.
makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Yeah, it does, I guess, but from a numbers perspective, the bean counters are always calling, no offense intended, but,
But no, but it's true. I
But
mean,
yeah,
you know,
culturally, I see the,
right
yeah.
before I got on the school committee, we had in the high school a .4 equivalent of a music teacher.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was one of the reasons I ran. .4.
Yeah.
That was the how the hell do you do that? Well, that's, if you take how many hours is considered full-time and you pick down to
Yeah.
.4, that's how many hours he
Hours,
was
yeah.
getting paid
16
for.
hours.
Yeah.
And he
I
was,
know,
he
I'm-
was a full-time person, but .4 was at the high school and .6 was at the middle school, and that's what Tom Walters was doing. It was insane. But that's why you
Mr.
get
Walters was my
FTEs.
band teacher.
Yes, he
And-
was. Yes, he
and-
was, sweetheart.
And I understand all, and
Yeah,
it's a-
I know
and
you
if
do.
you go for the school budget, it's all over
Yeah.
FTEs.
Yeah.
But for us, it's a more, what's the story behind, So we'll say there's like additional resources for something,
Thomas-
Whether it's .4 or .5, I don't
If
think
someone
that
were to
really
put-
matters in
if
that,
someone were to
in
put
that
me
level.
on the stage and ask me, I would just say, it's just it's a convenient metric to help manage the cost,
Yeah,
period.
and that's fine if you do this in a budget, when you put your budget together, but we're trying to,
In the report.
tell the story, what the budget, what
So what we need is,
is.
So
is
instead of
intended.
saying, so you're saying, I understand what you're saying, major costs associated with additional staffing to reduce elementary classroom size.
But
Instead
Yeah.
of, instead of additional FTE, he wants a more humanized word, which would be.
Full-time employees, because they're different than part-time employees, which were also hired,
Yes.
and hourly,
Right,
you need
but,
to be.
but I mean, but he's saying, in that instance, you would say staffing, because staffing means people.
but then you have to
I
worry about
know.
all the other FTEs throughout it.
I know.
I think full-time employees is fine, even that's kind of.
But I
disingenuous
understand
thing.
understand where
I
you're
think
coming
that-
from. It takes a little bit of the humanity out of this,
Yeah.
But
the
even full-time
We're
Narrative
turning
is false.
we're turning people into numbers.
But then
Full-time
again, this is the
employees.
Yeah, I mean,
finance
that's what
committee.
we're-
Aren't
yeah.
you all a bunch of wonks? I mean, you guys?
No, we are, looking at the box, we're on behalf of the town's residents,
Yes. I agree.
And most, are not familiar with these terms,
Yep.
which are very specific.
Maybe that'll be my presentation, guys. Now that we're down through the budget, here's what all these acronyms mean.
Well, I'm telling you, a definitions page is not a bad idea. Too bad Stan's not, he made one of the superintendents
Did
do
he?
that.
Moving
Give him a
on,
definitions page.
we're into page, whatever that is. We've gone past the FTEs,
Yeah.
and we're
We're
now,
gonna ask about our $600,000
we're gonna question that.
versus
Yeah.
$500,000.
again, the question, why we're and I don't mean it in a negative way, so why are we focusing on these bullet points
Where, in this?
in the school
I
department?
can explain it to you, absolutely. So, there's, the reason why it's formatted like this, and we can change it, but the reason why it's
It's not
done.
a format. Why these? Is there anything else you could have put in here? It's not.
If you let me, I can explain it to you if you let me finish. So the first section, the 3 bullet points, is the most important things that we achieved, and the next 3 are the looking forward,
Okay.
and they match. So the first one is reducing classroom sizes in FY20, and if you go to the next section, it's where we need to go to get to the equivalent 0, basically, right? Effective 0 rather. So they correspond. The second thing is where staffing was increased and why. So like really most of the budget increase above level services, what is it? And then the third bullet and kind of the FY20 is about the curriculum fund, and that's because we're increasing something now, but it's also to be consistent with last year, because I think we're going to continue to see that going forward.
So, if we're wanting to cut back on sentences, that would be one right there. That you could probably trim that one back. But
Which one?
on the curriculum, there's a lot more words in there for, to me, less impact for what's happening in the schools.
You mean the third bullet?
Yeah, the continue to implement. And you could say, it's just, you could really cut that back.
Okay. Do you want us to have a sentence in here that says what it is?
Yes,
Okay.
because it stands out in the budget.
The last 3 bullet points there, they're not really in the budget.
Nope.
So that's something
Right, she's talking
we
about looking
expect
forward.
will be a discussion going forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's already a discussion today. So, it takes basically the school committee's strategic goals and then represents the ones that are going to translate into costs in the future that we'll have to look forward to. So additional elementary school teachers to get them to their effective 0, that's planned for probably FY21. Then there's like obviously the big one, which is NAMS. And then there's like the EL program, which we could take out, but when we were talking to Greg and Jim, Tim had mentioned that, some of the biggest costs have to do with English language learners or special SPED programs or whatever else. And this is going forward what they want to do. So I checked with Jim that they're still looking to add EL teachers every year. And they didn't fund that this year, although it was recommended that last year for FY19 that they would do that going forward. So they didn't do that. So I think it's interesting to note that, like, at least for us, and we can take it out, because they continue to add additional hourly salaries, but they didn't fund a full teacher. And I'm assuming that was
And I don't know if we had that discussion, I don't think. So if we look at, year-over-year budget increase, so we can assume 3% is just the level service year-over-year increase, just the salary. So we always have an extra 75 percentage points, maybe a 1% in above that,
In and above, yes.
which will then fund these 3 bullet points, assuming we're not going over 3.75 or 4% increase for the school budget, because that's only what we can afford going forward. How long will that take to achieve these targets with, let's say, a fairly small increase year over year?
Which is kind of why, and we can change this too, but in the last paragraph, in the last sentence, we, you know, again, we use the same words as last year, looks forward to reviewing a multi-year financial plan that supports their outlined strategic goals. Because we've asked for it now for 3 years in a row.
And we got indications from both Greg and Jim that they are leaning towards having a multi-year plan. I could see it actually being around next year even, so. I have a suggestion for that.
How long was it like 5 or 10 years to get there with,
For what?
For what?
with an expected 0.75% increase over the,
Mhm.
you know, and then we can say this level service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So how many years would it take to
get where?
achieve,
To
to
get, to
achieve
get,
those
to get a
three?
new, to get a new
bullet-
NAMS, that will not, we
No,
will-
not names,
Because
of those 3
teaching-
bullet points.
You know, that was an interesting
yeah,
thing.
one of them
I
is-
recall a conversation either with Dr. Price or Dr. Gilligan saying, you'd be surprised what that 0.75 actually gets you. And you would get there within 2 to 3 years. That was their comment. I do really remember that from Dr.
which was
Price.
the original, which was 3 years. So FY 2021, my understanding is we will get to an effective zero in terms of meeting the school committee's classroom size goals for elementary schools. So they've kind of whittled that down. Now the next step is to reduce the class size for NAMS, but they can't do that because of the facility constraints. Like, they could hire as many teachers as they want, they just have nowhere to
place
put
to put
them.
I mean, they're on the roof or in the parking lot, that's
Yeah.
just not gonna happen.
Which is, so that's why we put in here, like, we pulled the classroom size data from, NAMS and then compared it to the Mass State average. And that's because we need to,
You know where I wanna go with that, I like that, the message.
yep,
But if I really don't know, I could assume, well, if they want to achieve that, they need $10 million more. I'm just throwing out a number, you know, because you look at that and said, oh, that sounds really expensive. Could we have a, you know, put that in perspective and said, you know, these are the targets of the school department with comparable increase over the next 3 years. You know, it's a reasonable target to have without blowing the budget out of proportion over the next couple of years. So, meaning those 3.75%, if we get this year over year over year, in a reasonable time, they achieve these targets. It's not like we need to have a 10% increase of
Right.
the
But I
school
don't think we
budgets
can
for the
say
next.
that, because what we're talking about here is building
Yeah, a new
doing a
building.
major renovation in the
Yeah.
middle school. We can't say that. I think what she's trying to say, I know what she's trying to say in a very subtle way, is we got some big ass problems
I
coming
mean,
down
like,
the
because
line.
that's what I
mean,
said, like, if we're
yeah.
talking about the change in the middle school needs, need a new building.
Yeah.
Either they need a new building or we need to bring trailers back.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but I mean, it's something
Yeah.
substantial. We need to create new classroom space within the
what
middle
is it,
school.
2
and
new
that's why-
teams per grade?
Yeah, it's a lot. So that's why they keep applying to the state to, you know, to get on the list for that. Because if we don't get help from the state, it's just not going to happen.
Manageable, yeah.
It really isn't. I mean,
So,
So you could say 2 of those bullet points, you know, are
Yes.
probably achievable, you know, with the moderate budget increases we
Yes.
saw over the last couple of years.
Yes.
However, to
Middle
really make a
school-
difference for the middle school long
Yeah.
term, that's a
we're not
complete
being
separate
direct enough.
discussion.
is
Well-
what, in your opinion?
What, pardon?
We're not being direct enough. So here's,
I don't wanna scare people, but also
I don't wanna, my
realistic.
intention is to not get ahead of the superintendent and the school
Yeah,
committee.
see, that-
And
that
let them
really is-
manage their own message.
Yeah, that has
Not
to
our
be-
job to manage their message, it's just our job just
Yeah.
to, in my opinion, and
I
maybe
think
you
you're
disagree.
I think you're absolutely correct,
Is-
because we can't say, you have to fund this now. It has to come from them. They have to come in front of us and say, we need this money
here's our plan.
now. Here's our plan, or this is what we need to do, you need to do from us. Like, any message about major funding needs to come from the superintendent.
I think it's pretty strong saying we anticipate the
Yeah.
cost of rectifying the physical constraints of NAMS to be a critical topic of discussion in the
Yeah,
near
I
term.
mean,
That's
'cause
pretty
they
good.
Answering a number, it just.
It doesn't say anything.
I think we've really brought it out.
So what does that
in
mean?
Discussion.
It means that we need the school committee
We have to have
to
some hard
establish,
discussions.
to decide, one, in what year they want to fund a study to establish the cost of doing that. When they've decided they've applied to the MSBA enough times that they're going to approach the
Yep.
townspeople for funding, even through either
Bond.
debt or, an override, and when they think it's appropriate to do that. All I think we can say as a finance committee is, if you want to achieve your classroom size goals, you need a new building. So we anticipate that you're going to come to us some point in the near term and discuss what that looks like. And everyone should be ready for that discussion.
Yeah, I mean,
when it happens, and what happens is not the finance committee's responsibility.
Right.
Right?
Yeah, no, I don't, and the intention was not to, it's our responsibility, it's just to lay it out, saying whatever, in a context that a middle school discussion is not covered in current budget, it's not in the operating budget, it's not in the capital improvement plan, it is a separate discussion with separate funding, separate resources, which,
But we don't.
which is not in,
But we don't
in
really
current
know what-
outlook.
I don't know that we can be so that
We
specific.
can't be so specific, but I know we actually introduced.
But we
these-
are.
No, we're actually introducing here the forward-looking strategic kind of thinking goals that have been expressed to us, either directly, specifically, or quietly, so to speak, on the NAMs in particular. We're just having to be bringing the NAMs out a little bit more in public, for the public's eye. I think we've gradually gotten there. We've been just like, done a little dance. This year we're doing a bigger dance. I like the approach.
And let's, I mean, this isn't happening, but if it was happening that the superintendent or the school committee were just like, I don't think it's a big deal, then, I mean, like, if that happened for another year, that like, we took them off the list, or they never applied to the state, things that are not happening right now, I'm just saying, as a for instance, so then I think it would be responsibility of the finance committee to say, hey, this is a crisis. I mean, and I've seen this in other town meetings where there has been some huge things, think OPEB, something big, where like, no one is addressing this, this is a huge
elephant in the
problem.
room.
This is, bad things are gonna happen. I have been to many, not many, 3 maybe, town meetings where that happened, where the chair of the finance committee said, this is bad, and no one is paying attention to this. And it's a little alarming to hear your finance committee say that, but people wake up and listen. That's when you would say that we're not there for this, because these things aren't
but I don't-
happening.
The school is clearly
right
knows
now-
this is
Yes,
on
the school is
horizon.
clearly
But-
doing the things right now that they're
Chris-
supposed to be doing.
In the summary, in the fourth paragraph, that's exactly what we say. We are saying
We're saying
that
that
middle
it's,
school needs a ton of money.
right.
So we are spelling it out.
We're just bringing it out to be, we're making it more
And-
public.
Yeah.
And all I'm saying in the more details is that we take off that theme again, but clearly saying this is not in the constraints and means of current budget covered at all. It is a different discussion, which we kicked off. We kicked off in the summary already, where we said it's massive capital allocation, new revenues, and
Got it.
debt required
I
for the
see,
middle
okay.
school.
As it will require additional funding through
I mean, we kick it off right
State.
there.
aid or, I want to use the same language then, let's say it again, right?
Debt exclusion override, you wanna put that, that was it,
Yeah,
you don't wanna put those
But
words in
what
there.
I heard got in our discussion, not to put it too much into the focus, and we're putting it right in our first paragraph, so.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I think we should have it front and
It's one of
center.
our 2 major challenges we're
So-
identifying it as, so.
But I don't want to imply that the school committee and the superintendent are not doing the things that they're supposed to be doing, because I don't think that that's true. I think they are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. That's why, it's a fine balance.
Yeah.
No, but we are not criticizing or, what he means to say, we have to highlight as a finance committee.
Yeah, yes.
What is,
Yeah, okay.
Let's be soft, let's say it.
yeah.
How's that?
But then,
And
do we really want to keep it in a summary, in our summary?
That's the point, I think I was thinking about that, maybe we take that, we just say there's significant school challenges.
well, so it won't be highlighted as much because it's going to be an executive summary now. So it's going to be the two challenges,
That's a good
boom,
point.
boom,
That's true.
in a bullet among other bullets.
Yeah, it's not gonna
important,
be
but
as
not
big.
a paragraph.
Discussed in here.
is that fair, you think? It's still important, but it's not,
Maybe a paragraph
what you need to do in executive
of
session.
challenges in each section.
Let's look at that further.
No.
does
I
that,
like us focusing on the two, you know, the idea that you focused on two major challenges is key. I don't, you know, that's what you're seeing. I think putting a separate challenges section in each of these is getting way too granular.
is this too much, okay, so,
I think we've identified the two things, we've talked about both these things continually in finance committee for the last couple of years, you know, this is
But
the
what,
OPEB
might
and,
delete it,
do you think,
Okay.
And
Dr.
the middle
Gilligan
school.
will bring this up in his,
yes.
I think he will. He
I
spoke
do.
about
Oh,
it here.
I would be
yeah.
he will bring
surprised.
up the middle school. Say,
I would
"Hey,
be surprised
guys,
if he didn't at least get questioned on it from the
He
floor.
Guys,
did, he did
the
speak
middle
about the
school-
fact that he says we have to do, we know we have to do something, it's not gonna happen overnight, over the next year or two.
Yeah.
But we will probably we will have to do something.
I'm gonna be, they're going to be advocating for this project as part of facilities master plan phase 2, if we continue to be denied by the MSBA.
So adding to,
Yeah.
So you wanna take the, I can like what you're doing there.
Should we take this out? I think it's confused, it's important, but not as important as the other
Right.
two.
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
agree.
Out. Done. See you
You'll love
later.
it.
I just had, this is me nitpicking, that third last paragraph, last bullet, continues to implement, no, yeah,
Where? Here?
this one up here.
Where are we?
I would say the curriculum fund,
Yeah, you wanna shorten that, that's
the
fine.
curriculum fund is comprised, I would say their curriculum fund, comma, proposed to increase from 400 to 500,000.
Yeah, it doesn't, I have to rewrite the whole thing then, that's totally fine, I'll highlight it and do that. Because it goes, the FY20 budget focuses on critical steps to manage these needs, such as the following, which are boom, boom, boom. So if I start with the definition, it doesn't jive with the rest of the.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that
That's
fair?
fine.
And then, but I will make a note to
Make that short, yeah.
shorten. Do you feel comfortable with that looking forward section, Thomas? Does that address?
so it's the same, you just took out a bullet point, right?
Well, we also
No.
added specifically, so it matched the summary, the last sentence. We anticipate the cost of rectifying the physical constraints of NAMS to be a critical topic of discussion in the near term, as it may require additional funding through state aid or, additional funding through state aid and or.
Yeah, the one thought I always had in that discussion, what does it mean, and we got denied twice, I believe, right?
Yeah,
Mhm.
or a third time.
And so we might be denied again.
Mhm.
Would we then drop the case middle school because, or would we then say, okay, you know, we tried, not gonna get
It's
any
not
money?
our call.
It's not our call.
It's-
Not our
And by the
No,
way.
No, I understand, but,
Oh,
I'm not saying that that's our call, but would we put a language in there saying, you know, without state funding, going through with this project, but without state funding would mean a significant, you know, impact on debt services of the town.
No, I wouldn't I think we're putting the cart before the horse by saying that.
And you
I think
need-
we need to wait for a proposal and we don't wanna manage
Correct.
their message.
Right, and you need to have a good campaign or something like that. We're not gonna put a finger in their eye ahead of the game.
No, not a figure, you know, it's just, you know.
What we're saying,
I mean,
right
here we
there, we're
say it,
saying-
we say, you know, significant allocation of capital, but there could be, you know, that this,
We're only
State
going so
aid
far.
is not coming,
We don't
you
have
know?
an answer. We don't know how, but it's not our job to say how. It's someone else's job to lay
Just saying
that
there's
plan
3
out.
ways to fund it. We don't know we just know the discussion's gonna happen. It's gonna be funded through state aid, through increased revenue, or debt sources, right? I mean, those are the ways that, potentially.
was, you know,
That's really it.
probably debt and aid, or state, I don't know, what's it called?
Well, increased revenue means a tax override.
mhm.
I mean, that's what that word means, it's just a soft way of saying it, right?
Yep.
I mean, let's not beat around the bush, that's what increased revenue
But I-
would be, it would be increase in taxes.
Yeah, and I'm not writing that in there.
Yeah, but
no.
it's right in there.
Yeah,
No,
no.
It's not.
The O word and the T word are not there.
Oh, you mean that?
Yeah.
Because it is, it's premature to say that, because we
Right.
don't know what's gonna happen with this next round, so.
Your statistics in the last paragraph?
And actually, it's not or.
Hmm?
It has to be, it's just or increased revenues, because, you know, the
could
debt
be-
service
No.
is just, no, I mean, how you fund your debt service, I mean, you gotta pay that back somehow.
If other debt falls off, I mean, it may alleviate some.
Again, I'm not planning now the capital
Yeah.
structure of that plan, what it's gonna take for revenue and what they can do in their current debt structure. I'm not gonna go down that path. I don't know.
Yeah, we don't, there's no way to.
I like to move on, though. I think we've gotten this one pretty good. So let's just look at the last paragraph. I just wanna know where you get your stats from.
Those are on the North Andover Public School website. And they are published by, Desi.
Okay. Can you agree, Chris, with that,
What's that?
that last paragraph, will that cause a?
The finance committee, this one, the finance committee acknowledges this.
No, the North Andover spends less per year than the district average? I mean, will that cause a firestorm?
No, we had it last year.
No,
Okay.
no.
It didn't cause a firestorm.
That's,
It's on in a pie chart on their website.
yeah,
I'll
and,
argue that's just the North Andover is much more efficient.
well, it's been up that way for a very, very long time.
Well, so I don't have the time to do it, and Jim didn't do it this year, but last year we were able to put in comparable districts instead of the Mass State average.
Yeah.
But you have to like pull each stat and I'm not
No,
good.
no, no,
Right,
we're
I mean,
good.
and you have to decide which
Which is
are the
comparable.
comparable,
Yeah.
you know, communities, that's a whole, and then you gotta argue, well, this one doesn't really belong, and that one doesn't.
They
Yeah,
did it for-
we've done it, you know, so if you do the state average, and the thing is that is consistent with how we have funded our schools for a really, really long time. But it's always good to put it out there, because it's like, no, are we
Just
spending way more than everybody else? No,
Yep, I
not
get it.
even close, so it's just a good thing to put in there.
Let's move on to OPEB. Basically took the first two paragraphs out of last year's. Maybe cut out a few words. I'm changing the tone a little bit because there is some positive activity. Let me tell you about the positive activity in OPEB. It isn't to pay off $110 million, it's to provide a nice, healthy cushion in case of, to make sure that our pay-as-you-go plus more is covered. And so that's really the intention of what the OPEB reserves are gonna be all about. Did you have to change the numbers to 4.1%, 4.1 million by the end of fiscal year 20?
The trust fund balance is currently projected to be, that's what you want me to
Yeah, 'cause,
change?
well, they just
4.1.
increased that.
4.1 million by the end of,
FY 20, which is 3%, 3.7%.
And that's because they moved the money from the health insurance trust.
Yes.
Is that where-
All of it instead of
Yeah.
just a portion, yep.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yep.
do you want to say this again?
What's that?
Several meetings were held, we already said that up top.
No, you don't need to say
Don't
that.
need
Is
to.
that all right? We'll take that one out.
Yep, yep.
Okay. Constructive ideas have been formulated to improve the OPEB budget, that's great. Retiree pensions.
So this was one that didn't really get highlighted, but it's the biggest single change year over year. When you look backwards, it's large. So 9.6% increase year over year. Now, I know that's, if you were to say, well, you know, our revenue only grows at, that's not a fair that's not apples to apples. But it's large, and that growth pace is going to consume, right now it's consuming 5.5% of our town's revenue, and it's 25% more than it was 4 years ago. So I think that's why it's in there.
Yeah.
It's a new sort of item, but it's like, let's not take our eyes off, and it's gonna grow.
No, and I like how you put, talking about attracting new businesses and development to grow the commercial.
I had to slip that in there.
I think it's a good.
That, I don't underwrite that. I would, say is, you know, what you're trying to say here. If we don't get that, your taxes will go up.
No, it means we have to let some people go.
There's different ways to attack
Wow.
it, yeah.
But
That's the whole problem with, you have a limited budget under Proposition 2.5. And you have to work within the means. That's the overall premise of that. That's the philosophy of 2.5. I sort of support it. But it
but
puts you in a
just to
real bind.
reduce, to reduce it to attracting new business. I mean,
All I'm doing is increasing the tax base.
yeah, but you're only saying we recognize to increase revenue. We're not saying or reduce operating cost. And when you say increase revenue, you're only saying from development of new businesses. I mean, this is the easiest way out
Again,
of all of it.
Maybe being cute is sort of what I've been doing. And being cute here says, consuming a larger portion of the available dollars needed to pay for general services and future capital improvements, capital requirements. So in a way, I am saying it there. So you're gonna have less operating budget, more pension cost.
There's a lot of, I mean, I don't read this all out of this sentence. I don't know. I don't even know what to make of this.
Anyone else?
I would stop saying they recognize the need to increase revenue in North Andover. Because it could be, if you don't want to say or decrease cost, which I understand, I don't want to put that in, so increase revenue. And that can come from receipts, from tax revenues, or from business development, but not only from business development. And if business development is not happening, and what I learned from Andrew is we're really not set up to have a major business development in this town. There
Yeah.
is just not enough space. 114 is really very difficult to develop because it's such a narrow thing. The few spaces we have are developed. There's one big one.
Okay, let's,
You know,
it's
so-
trying to bring the attention on the retiree pension cost.
It's,
So take out the last
we
sentence.
will not solve our problems through business development because we're just not set up to have a major development here in North Andover.
So we can
So if
leave,
we need more revenues, it's not coming from there.
so I have no problem taking that entire last sentence out. It's gonna be hanging paragraph.
Yeah, just
That's
leave it.
fine. All we're doing is introducing an issue for the town to think about. I'm not making a recommendation. I don't wanna do anything.
You know, it's one thing what we put in the letter and what we discuss as a finance committee. But when we go through middle school, class sizes, pension, retirement, I mean, these are all major cost. And then and they can only come from additional revenue or cutting operating costs. We don't want to do the operating costs because we feel we're not, I think all the departments are right-sized. We cannot go lower, otherwise we would really suffer services. So it has to come from revenue, but we also need to be conscious here as a finance committee that it's not coming from this business development.
We're gonna take that
It
sentence
will
out.
come from tax revenue increases eventually.
We'll take that.
And we gotta be kind of honest to our residents
We're
here,
taking that sentence out. And we can actually say, Finance Committee recognized they need increased revenues.
Period. Take out
Revenues in North
particularly
Andover.
Yeah.
I took out the whole sentence.
You could say increased revenues in North Andover.
The need to increase it.
And need to increase revenues in North Andover.
I mean,
No,
not
I
on-
think
I'm
what
not
he's
telling you
saying
how-
is
not only that.
No, there's
it's-
other things too.
There's so
I think we
many
just take it
things.
out.
And,
And
eventually, I mean,
Just take it out.
we don't expect any, that we add 5,000 residents to North Andover. I don't think we have
This
the
is
space
why
to
I
development.
like you in these meetings. You really do point out some down to earth, I'm serious, Thomas, you really point out some really down to earth, practical views of this letter.
that I get cute trying to dance around the issue. But I do appreciate and respect everything you've said here, so we have to take that sentence out. I'm not telling people how to increase revenues.
So we took it out. Okay, so anything else about this section? Let's keep moving. It's 9:30. So we took out, so retiree health insurance and pension costs, we're all set? Everyone comfortable? Good? Okay. Reserves.
Who put together the charts?
I did.
Okay. And I think they're great. I mean,
And Tim, together.
And Tim.
But they take up a ton of space.
I
I
was,
was not hoping,
They do take up a ton of space.
I was not, for putting these in here.
I mean, I
frankly.
just, the only reason I think is like, and you look at charts like this, and it's like they're helpful, particularly when they're in color. I don't know, is it gonna be in
Yeah.
color?
Yes.
Okay, to give people like, well, how we doing?
Yeah.
The visual thing, I was interested, that's why the suggestion of the pie chart, I applaud that.
Yeah.
But how did you determine what dollar amount to start with? Because they all start at different spots, and I understand the reasons for that. But like, you know, where you start from in a chart, always, that's what makes a difference in it. You can make this chart look however you want it to look, depending on where you start
They all
them.
started in 2015, except sped, which didn't.
No,
even
I'm
get
talking about
developed.
the dollar figure there, you know, you start at 100,
Whatever you
know?
needed to be in the range of the two.
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
was that really just
that's
it?
just a function of Excel. I'm not a chart person.
Okay,
We did this to visualize them. When I saw them
Yeah.
laid out, my thing to Tim was, I'd rather not even put them in.
Yeah.
I think we can say, basically, in a quick, I think I gave you a 2-sentence thing on reserves to put in this letter, because there's
They're
really
good.
no big news here. There's really not a whole lot of big news here, other than the fact that,
Yeah.
you know,
This
the
was-
town stabilization fund is very nicely growing. We add to it, it's our little pocket, you know, it's our cup on the mantle where we keep putting the money in.
This
Capital
can't-
stabilization goes up and down because we take from it, we spend, we put it back.
Can I-
Stabilization, sped is all over the place because it's so unpredictable.
well then
We can
here-
say that
then
in like
here's
a
the thing,
tiny little
I gotta
paragraph.
say that, because I read all that. I don't know that these visuals really show what the words show. I don't think they match up, because like, you know, when I look at like up and down, because of the constraints that you have, the whole thing should be bigger, and there should be,
I agree. So, you know what, this was an experiment
yeah.
more than anything else.
I
So-
really don't want them in there.
So I agree with everything.
I mean,
you said.
I get the philosophy, I really do, because I think pictures speak loud.
I suggest we just continue, maybe Liz, put a sentence in there after each one of the major.
If they were more dramatic, I would say,
So I
oh,
have it,
wow.
so I just took
but-
them out. Why don't we,
Yeah.
let's bullet and then you can.
Tom's.
Out of those 4, maybe we'll take the first 3 out because stabilization funds, that's really all over the place. But I really like the OPEB chart.
Well, see, now, that's a good point, because I was looking at the
Because
ones on
that's
the
a
other
more
pages.
stable.
Yeah.
Because
And
it
here we
actually
can,
shows something a little bit more real. The other ones
Right.
don't reflect as well what you just said, you know, because it's
Yeah.
not a long enough period of
It's not a long
time.
enough period
And
of
it's not,
time. No, I agree.
they're too small. But on the other hand, this one is actually a more dramatic
Yeah.
visualization, so.
Do you wanna get me something?
Yeah, we'll have to change it because of the, yeah.
Do you wanna get me a replacement for the section, just on what you think's important?
Yeah,
Or do you wanna do it right?
yeah, but we can do that.
Okay.
That's a no-brainer.
I mean,
as
there's
far
really nothing new in this, you
Yeah,
know,
right,
This
right.
section has not changed, it's, you know, we're socking our money away, we're doing all the right things, it's really not sexy.
So what I'll do is, I'll get you then the graph.
Yeah, if you would, you have all the background charts, so if you put the new 4.1 number in there
It's
and
done.
get that fixed,
I'll get that
we'll
back
go
in.
from there. Yeah,
Okay.
no worries.
Awesome. I'm gonna highlight that section.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, she's like.
You know, honestly, it was an experiment. I was actually, when Liz came in here, I'm like, man, I wish
No,
I
but
could.
those are good
I could do-
ideas.
I could
I
have
mean-
little thing here and an explanation
You
here.
don't know how it's gonna be until you actually look at it.
Right, so
and-
you actually
But-
chart it out and you look at it
And
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 it's,
yours probably fit that kind of graph better than anyone else's.
Well, the thing is most of the graphs are there, I mean, if they're much more elongated and you, like,
Yeah.
you know, like the S&P 500, I mean, those are like cool because you really see over this time and how like.
She's calling my chart, your chart boring.
Yeah.
All right.
No, it was Tim's
Uh,
chart, we know it
six.
wasn't Liz's chart.
CIP?
That's
What?
Wait a minute, we gotta rip the shit out of those.
But I can't really, I'm actually jumping between M and millions. I thought I always said millions, but I think that's, you do this in the,
I'm trying to make it all the same.
yeah,
That's-
it's fine, yeah.
And then Chris will add the bullet, the bolded words.
Yes,
and-
bold, well,
and-
that was
and-
only in with the bullets there, but that might not
Does-
even, that's not even gonna pertain now, cause it's all gonna be changed.
Are you okay with, I tried to make a couple changes to the last paragraph. Just, I don't think I did much. I just was trying to make it a little more clear, cause someone who hadn't dug in, just make sure you're okay with it and I'm representing what you're trying to say.
So what did you change?
I don't remember.
I
Not
think
that, not a lot. It
I
was not
you know what,
substantial.
I think it was just a little bit of grammar.
Yeah, no,
It was just a little bit of grammar.
I don't know why you would change my grammar, but.
Oh, was this one where I felt, where I might have added a comma or a period?
I'm.
I think I did-
And that's fine.
I think it was these renovations will include, and I wrote it differently, cause I was
Okay.
trying to.
Yeah, this is great.
Renovations?
It is
Oh,
flawless,
oh,
Thomas.
these
It is
Like I was, I think
renovations
I made a longer sentence shorter. I was trying to, I got a little confused when I was reading it, so I was trying to make it,
Just trying to make you look good, Tom.
that's my goal,
Can't do
always.
that. He's already there. Enterprise funds?
Are you good with that?
Mhm.
Okay.
Practically perfect in every way.
Done this one yet. Okay.
So the first paragraph talks about the enterprise funds and why they're there.
You know, I know we try to be brief, but I think that's kind of important for someone who doesn't know what.
Yeah, people don't understand why.
What that
Why
is.
the enterprise funds are different.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to this one yet. In terms of millions. One thing, do we want to talk about the conversation? Like, I know should we have a looking forward sentence that said, like, something about, I think this is not, I think there's gonna be, I don't know how it will be structured or how it will work, or, I don't think it's gonna be status quo all the time. I think this is gonna change,
What, the enterprise funds?
specifically water and sewer.
Oh,
I mean, we're
Oh.
dumping 800,
I know.
No, yeah.
We're only 93 of the 800.
doesn't, yeah, but we're gonna pay the percentage share, the
93.
pro rata share of whatever that is, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, how are we gonna pay that? And what does that look like? It's coming.
What, I don't understand, what
That
is
we're-
coming?
There's
problem.
The greater-
there's overflow issues with our sewage systems for the Greater Lawrence Sanitary District. Last year, 800,000 gallons of sewage.
Of sewage.
Went into the Merrimack.
And some of the
Yeah,
towns
it's
use the
in
Merrimack
books
for drinking
That
water.
we are responsible for.
And
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah, thank God for Lake Echicleac.
What's that?
It's very
so-
severe.
Accident or was it?
No, so there's
the
old,
systems can't handle it, and the pipes are still there. And they're grandfathered.
So we can't do it.
they were, some of them I think were supposed to be capped.
Yeah.
But there is some grandfathering in there as well.
But how long does that last? And what,
EP is very much aware of it.
Let's put it this
But
way,
our
the issue has
local-
not been resolved, as in, this is not new news. It's not the first time that it's happened,
They've been kicking the
and
can
it's
down the
supposed to
road.
be monitored, and a lot of things are supposed to have happened that.
but I think this number is greater than the last couple years, or
Oh,
like,
no, this.
it's an
we're at-
astronomical
We're at a
number.
crescendo right
Like
now.
where it's,
And where it's like judgments are going to come down. The town of North Andover might be required to pay
X
to
amount to rec.
either clean up or refurbish, probably refurbish, make sure it doesn't happen again. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So we're at the, what are you gonna do
And we're not
stage.
saying, and I don't think we should have anything in here that says we, you know, specifics
know.
or any, but,
A mini Boston Harbor issue.
That-
but
yeah.
that, hey, you know,
This is a potential,
we see that,
We note
yeah,
that.
we
we
know,
note that there have, and there's been increasing discussions at a state level.
yes.
So once you add that to this last sentence, the last sentence of the sewer section, and I agree. But Lowell Lowell is the most largest responsible,
Manchester, New Hampshire,
one of the,
in Mass, but Manchester, New
but of our
Hampshire.
Greater Lawrence,
Oh, yeah.
Lowell was, I think, 500,000 of the 800, 400,000 of the
It's
800.
disgusting.
That's low.
It's nuts.
Flush twice.
Yeah.
Towns down the water line need it.
It's a city.
It's really
What do you
really
wanna write,
discouraging because
guys?
it's so preventable and it's just,
So are we talking
Wrong.
$1 million? Millions?
We don't know.
we don't know. That's just it. We really don't know.
You know, it's sort of, it's like a mini Boston Harbor kind of situation.
Yeah.
Didn't come up when he was here, huh?
It was in the Eagle Tribune. wasn't it?
Yeah.
City, the
No,
last
when he,
week.
when he was
No.
presenting his.
I asked him about it.
Yeah, oh, I wasn't paying attention.
I said,
And what did
"Babe,"
he say?
he said, he doesn't know, cause no one,
We really don't know. The judgment
doesn't-
hasn't come down, but it's like, it's in our town. It happened with our stuff.
We're
we
going-
just don't have drinking water from the Merrimack, so I think our population is probably less
A little-
concerned
that's right, we're a little-
than
a little-
other, you know,
We're a little
tragedy
insulated.
of the commons
A
kind
little
of deal,
oblivious to it.
right?
You know
You
what,
know?
I think you probably put in the message in there, though. It's not the drinking water that's gonna cause us to get charged, it's not the water,
Sewer.
it's the sewer.
Yeah.
So
And
what-
it is,
What do you wanna write? We note that there have been increasing discussions at the state level regarding the Greater Lawrence.
GLSD, you've already
Uh-huh.
identified it,
yeah.
yeah.
Releasing,
Discharging.
discharging the job.
So there has been no discussion about the treatment plans for that, setting up treatment.
We have it, but it's, at some point, when they're overflow, there's tons of rainwater, they can't handle the amount.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of things.
So it's released untreated
So
into.
size enough for
Right.
treating, yeah.
Yeah, what's it called?
Discharging G.
It should fall under the master
Icky
plan,
stuff.
basically.
I don't even,
Sorry.
didn't know that that is possible, something like that.
If you, after a really bad rainstorm, are
Don't
on the
do it.
river, in like even Amesbury, before you get to the mouth, you're on the boat, whatever,
Swans.
don't swim,
Don't,
don't look down.
Really?
We note
Mhm.
that there have
It's
been
bad.
increasing,
Learn something
Overflow.
new.
Discharging.
maybe not Ames, further down probably.
Storm,
Ames-
isn't it,
Overflow.
what's the
Still
word
brackish
for it?
names,
It's
right?
storm,
storm overflow.
there's a technical word for it though.
Raw sewage.
No, there is, we note that there have been increasing discussions at the
For
state level
stormwater?
regarding the GSO discharge,
Overflow?
just discharging, overcapacity, discharging into the Merrimack River.
That's my.
You
like
could
the
just,
word.
well, you could just end the sentence there.
But put overflow here, discharging overflow.
Good idea. Into the Merrimack River.
And then period, and then
Done.
period, and
No,
then
no.
period, start a new sentence.
Period. Yeah. We anticipate. Don't be surprised, folks.
All these should fall under planning, master plan planning projects.
Yeah,
Master,
to the town
I
of
mean,
Hanover.
that's how it
Yes.
should be.
so
Such
what,
as
to increase our sewer
Hanover
capacity or?
No, how to handle it, how to treat it.
Yeah, I mean, well,
Yeah.
That's very good,
Yeah,
very good.
How to
probably
reuse it or how to,
yeah.
right
But
now.
that's, cause that's, as I said, it's a delicate balance of what you're writing in there, but.
Yeah,
But yeah, I heartily agree. It's a horrible story. I mean, it's the kind of stuff that you just, it's
Don't go
depressing.
fishing.
But it's all the other,
depressing.
all the towns who are who
five,
are,
yeah, there's five
who are
communities.
part in that community. So it's not just
Lowell.
us.
That's correct.
Lowell,
Okay.
Lawrence, North Andover,
April.
Haverhill.
But
Methuen?
we'd be crazy to think that there wasn't some portion of it, and it could be significant, that belongs to the town, our town.
I mean, we don't have any, I'm just wondering, we don't have any research teams because they're, as a planner, I had done studies on this, how sewage, is basically used to produce gas, methane gas that can be used to run vehicles, and I mean there's so many things that can be done with the extra sewage, and why have we not studied?
Cost prohibitive.
And we can get grants for that.
We're gonna put you in charge
I was
of
gonna
that.
Go
say,
for it.
You go, girl, because it's really,
we're at the.
Not in my neighborhood.
Steam to stay,
Oh, I think that,
I think it's fine.
I think there's enough methane in your house
What,
anyway.
what is actually, if the town gets sued for
Right over
multi-million dollars and loses, would we, you know, we
How much?
can't, yeah, how would we, handle that? I
You
mean,
have to borrow it.
you have to borrow it, basically.
I don't see how
There's
how
no-
I
else
don't
would
think
do
that
it.
I don't think, but
No,
that
no,
would come,
unrelated to
Yeah.
that, just in general.
Oh, in
I mean-
general.
I mean, that can happen, you know,
Yeah.
something,
Town gets sued,
Liability.
something happens, you
And,
don't know. It's nothing, I mean,
multi-million dollar judgment.
Right.
So it has to be through
you could
debt.
appeal,
Something like
appeal,
that.
but if you had to start paying, I imagine there, you know, here's the kind of thing, I bet with things like that, it's,
See a
there's always
judge-
payment plans.
yeah.
You would have to borrow, or you do a debt exclusion.
Can you say bankruptcy? Anyways, let's
Yeah.
move on.
Oh, I was just wondering. I think it, well, we're still within our time frame.
It's something that was grandfathered. I don't think so we can be penalized. They can come up with regulations that from here on you cannot do this, but
Yeah.
something.
Well, the thing is, we don't know what the details are.
I
Right,
don't know
yeah.
what they are,
You
yeah.
can always sue,
Yes.
You can always sue.
Yes,
no
you
matter
can.
what.
Where's that?
Okay, so now we're in the conclusions, or where are
Yeah.
we here?
So this first, is already said up top.
Yeah, I don't think we need number 8, right?
Well,
Are we repeating what we say in the summary, or or maybe should we
As long as
combine
it's,
summary?
Yeah,
how
I
about
don't,
like a one, how about a paragraph and instead of like, cause we already say this, how about we appreciate, something that we appreciate and we should have some kind of wrap up, you know, you don't wanna end on
Yeah.
Stevens Estate.
No, you
Yeah.
have to have a wrap up.
I mean, in summary, the finance committee believes the town of North Andover plans we thank all those who, I think you can just take this
yeah,
back
just go to
page
right to the in summary
and
Is that
combine it.
ready?
Yeah,
Gotcha.
and maybe just, you could take in that little piece about, we appreciate all who have given generously of their time, but, you know, just smooth it out with that,
Yeah,
yeah,
I was impressed tonight.
perfect.
You know, here's the other, if you want to, you can put in there, if you wanna learn more, please attend finance committee meetings. I mean, you could tell people to fully understand what the finances in this town. Finance committee meetings are
Open meetings.
open
Yeah.
meetings.
I like that.
And you
I
are
Yeah, I like that
welcome.
too.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I like it.
You might, I mean,
Encourage more participation.
Or watch-
Again,
Seriously.
you're just
Watch
adding to
us.
the presentation.
Watch us on
just one
channel.
sentence.
No,
Well,
again,
you know, that's the thing is, just think of the issue with, it's been in front of the planning board a few
How
times.
about
but
this?
People like.
Take this, right? We appreciate all who have given generously of their time to respond to information requests and present budget material. To, each meeting provides opportunity for the public to attend and
Or-
ask questions on all matters relating to town
Budget.
finances.
if you have any questions, call Stan Lippert.
All citizens of
We will
North
provide rounds.
Andover to attend.
Yes.
Great.
I like that. That's
You
nice.
might wanna say each
Finance
finance
committee
committee
meeting,
meeting,
yes.
just to be specific, yeah. Great.
Provide opportunities, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
For the public to attend and ask questions on all matters related to town finances. Great, that's great.
I like that.
Excellent, you got a plug, okay.
So Sasha, do you want to summarize what's needed?
Yeah, love doing that. Okay. So, one, I'll start from the beginning. So I'm gonna rewrite summary, right? 2, Thomas, to rewrite, to write budget summary.
Budget.
Right, and then I'll combine, them. 3, who wants to, Divya, do you wanna take, actually, no, I have it already. So I'll create a municipal section, unless you have an idea for, I have some of your bullets from
I
before.
sent the entire thing, yeah, the municipal general.
I'll create actually, do you wanna take that? Cause you have the, that section, the original, that.
Do you want, You can do the
That she
bullets.
took, then I took, then you took.
Yeah, I have the original section. Okay.
Well, if you have the.
I shared it with everyone.
Yeah, well, we had, so if you wanna create that. Okay.
Is that on a shared drive?
Yes, I did. The original one was on the shared drive, not this one.
This right here is on the shared drive. I think I can email it to you in a Word format.
Just,
And then if you want to email your section back to me in Word, I think this is great for everyone to view and edit together, but formatting wise, I think everything's easier in Word.
yeah, yeah.
The other thing too, be careful about, your numbers are different than what's in the town. It's not because they're just flavored differently. They're not anything different that we haven't reviewed. So we have to make sure we're consistent with the town warrant.
Well, I'm starting with the budget book.
I'm sorry?
I'll take the budget book.
Then I'll check the numbers then.
Yeah, and then you have to update, I don't know.
I took the numbers from the book.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, then I'm gonna cut down the section on the curriculum fund, and then Liz is gonna send me a new reserve section.
Yep, and Tim's gonna send me a new OPEB chart, because you've got the latest iteration.
New reserves. Tim send
I'm making
Liz
my own. notes.
OPEB chart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
Okay.
exactly you want me to do, the budgets in
The municipal, no, just a municipal section.
there? Oh, that's easy.
Yeah, it's all in there, I just am trying not to overload
That's
myself,
right.
I'm trying to be conscious of that.
How many pages?
All right, 7.
My municipal budget was 1.5.
How many sheets?
We did that, and then I'm gonna email Jim tonight.
Yeah. Say, what?
What's up with that? 5 versus 6.
And I think that's it, right? And then what is our deliverable timeline? So based on these are a lot of changes, I'm gonna need, The weekend?
Yeah.
so that gives you guys to like, let's just be honest, if you can have it to me by like end of day on Friday, I'll work on it Saturday and circulate probably by Sunday morning for everyone's review, and that will be pretty final.
All in?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Right,
Sunday,
right.
we have it to Sasha by Friday, close of business.
If you can do it before then,
All
thank
the
you so
better.
much, cause I'll
Yeah.
work on it during the day on Friday, but if not, that'd be
Great.
great. Alright,
Are you gonna send it tonight?
send it right now.
Yep, okay, perfect.
Next thing on our agenda is public comment, and next thing on our agenda is, do I have a motion?
I hereby move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those that didn't ask for discussion.
No discussion needed.
Comment to everybody in this room.
For all your work on that.